5:58. What's going on? Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. Titans bringing in a ghost from the Callahan past as former Bengal Tyler Boyd schedules some visits this week, visiting the Chargers earlier in the week. And Boyd is apparently in Nashville as we speak. Hey, Tyler, go ahead and sign for us. Boyd, who turns 30 in November, started 13 games for Cincinnati last year, catching 67 balls for 667 yards and 2 touchdowns. The NBA playoffs ongoing as the Mavs dominated the Kawhi Leonard-less Clippers 123-93, taking the series to 3-2 at the Mavs Game 6 back to Dallas. While the Mavs are going back to Dallas, the Heat are going back home after losing Game 5 to Boston 118-84, with the Boston Celtics winning by 34 points. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
A very warm welcome into your Thursday morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will, RKW. Right here at 104.5 The Zone. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Robert Walsh making the show happen. 615-737-1045. How you join the discussion. Titans have a wide receiver in town. Tyler Boyd in Nashville. We'll tell you what that means for current players on the roster, what it could mean for the Titans offense. Deion Sanders has very hot Twitter fingers. Coach Tate McGinnis doesn't have Twitter, but he's got great things to say about the Titans draft at 7:20. And ESPN's Matt Miller at 9:20 this morning. He'll share his perspective on the Titans draft class. Good morning. What's up?
What's going on?
Good morning, good people.
I am still getting used to this light thing. I feel like we're in hour 3 of the show, so I'm still getting used to that. Waking up is a little early, or is a little easier, though, to get moving. Like, once I'm out the door, I feel like, all right, the day has started. It's not dark out.
Yeah, between that and the warmth that you're getting all day long, that right there has been super cool. Yesterday, went to a baseball game.
Yeah.
It was hot. No cloud in the sky. I'm talking about direct, and I mean direct sunlight. I added a shade or two yesterday, which was kind of cool, though. Yeah, it's actually kind of cool, man. I enjoy it more now than I ever have, and it's because I don't have to be outside for training camp anymore.
That's true.
Every time you would see a ray of the sun, you would just think, oh,
you know what my mind?
That much closer.
Yeah, it would be. I was like, you know how you paint pictures in your head and wrestle with yourself mentally? If it's this hot right now, I can only imagine what it's going to be like in training camp. And I got on all that gear. Oh, my God. It was dreadful, man. It was. But I got through it. It is what it is. I fully enjoy what football gave and did for me. So,
did you miss two-a-days, or did you have two-a-days?
I had two-a-days.
You
I had
did?
2
okay.
years of real two-a-days.
Was that just so different from than when they went to one, or was it just splitting that paying up?
Truthfully, when we originally had like 2 days, like practices at like 8 o'clock, break, and then come back at 2. That was it was all I knew. We even did it in high school.
Sure,
so
yeah, I remember.
We always did that. So it was normal then. It was just on the NFL level. I will say, the biggest question: how in the heck are we going to do this and still have 16 games? Like, that was one of my craziest questions I had. It was that. It was hitting people who were like 28 years old, and here I was, 22, 23 at the time, trying to figure it out. The age gap meant a lot, and then, of course, you really found out that early morning practice after about the first week, it was like young guy emphasis. Like, it was an hour 45, and it was young guy emphasis for the most part. More details, and then when it came to the evening, that's when the big show was. Okay. It's like, okay, all the vets are here. In Pittsburgh, we had a crowd because it was open practice every single day. So that's when Coach put everything on display for everybody. And, again, young guys got a good bit of the reps, but as training camp went on further, it would be starters and everybody else, and it was you playing for the season that way. It didn't really bother me because I was so young and dumb and used to it that I just wanted to survive the NFL, and whatever it took, I was going to do it. So it was one of those things that was so normal you don't think about it. But when we went to, and truthfully, being honest with you, taking out the physicality of like what the one practice is now, it's still like effective because you have walkthroughs. They take up all your time is basically what it is. Mm-hmm. It is a long just process of how much time can we take up of you. The morning you got to work out, then in the evening time.
You're still there all day.
It's full pads and physicality. Yeah.
2 days were fun in college because when you're on a non-revenue sport, they put you in a church van and they drop you off wherever your classroom is and don't let you shower between practice and an 8 a.m. class. And so you would literally be in class in like economics with like soaking wet running shoes, like totally just sweat, like because if you're doing a second run in the morning, then or a first run in the morning, then you were doing a workout. You weren't just going like for a jog. Most of the time if you were meeting as a team. So they would literally I would just apologize to the person sitting next to me in class. Just be like soaking wet with like sweat and we'd still be late.
Dang.
So it'd be just like walking in looking like we've just run a marathon because we had just run probably a half marathon that morning in like Poli-Sci 101.
You said they dropped you off in a van.
Yeah.
Where did they pick and drop you off initially at?
Well, we'd be at the cross-country course or the facility. Because we would meet at the football facility, too.
Okay.
Right.
But the football bias, of course, I'm calling it the football facility and not the Neal and Thompson Sports Complex. You jerks. 615-737-1045.
Jerks with parking passes.
Parking passes. You all would get meals. You would get customized protein shakes that we didn't get. That's why I have this chip on my shoulder.
I still have this chip on my shoulder right now. I'm going to be honest with you. I actually went in, when I went and spoke to the team last week, I actually sat there and ate
nice,
it.
Isn't it?
It's very
nice. Did you eat a Smokies?
I did eat a Smokies.
Nice.
It was my first time. I just got something for the road. Yeah, it was my first time. They had some wings. I got like 3 wings and some broccoli is what I got because I was like, all right, I got to hit this road.
So good.
But
the customizable pizza there, too, also just incredible.
It was, they basically had like Outback Steakhouse dinner that night.
Yeah.
They had Alice Spring chicken. They had like a fried shrimp, potatoes, cheese and potatoes. But on the other side, like for guys that are like either trying to bulk up or lose, because that's all the same as just the amount of food you're taking in and less grease. So you stay away from the fried shrimp. But, like, you could go over there and protein up. They had a protein section over there. As soon as you walk downstairs, there's this big old medical.
Must be nice.
There's this big old pills case where guys pull out, take their vitamins for the day, and go on.
One more quick question on that. That brings me to the point of, we were talking about, like, the weight of Tavondre Sweat and stuff.
Yeah.
Is there any big difference between how you're able to get your body to the next level in the next level at the NFL? Or is it about this? Because I'm hearing you tell all these stories about how great it was with the food they have and all
in
of
college
that.
Or
Tennessee's not the best example to use because Tennessee does take care of your nutrition.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
The top of the top, while you're there, does all your food for you. Like those guys get every meal from the athletic department.
Well, I would say this too. You may get 1 or 2 meals, but here's the issue that you have into it, guys. They either have weight issues or not is when you go home.
Okay.
Yes. Weekends also.
Okay.
Yes.
They can't have a chef or something.
You don't have stuff on weekends. Now, some of the guys with big NIL deals may.
Sure.
But
Yeah. Or you can bring home a lot of food from the cafe. But truth be told, I asked somebody, I was like, when I went into Smokies, the cafe that they go into, I was like, hey, do they take this for granted?
Oh, yeah.
And it was like, yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't even a
football
football player, and I took it for. I only got it for 2 meals a day.
Yeah.
And I took it for granted.
It was just one of them situations where, like, you get used to it. I had somebody tell me yesterday, man, even in a big old mansion, it's just a house and you got to clean it and work. I was just like, it's normal to them. So all the amenities and accessibility you have to having somebody customize a to-go dinner for you, you probably still going to say, man, I got a craving to Chick-fil-A today.
Yep.
Or mama's cooking, or y'all cooking out. Are there ways? Yes, Caleb, but it's always going to be like Will said, them weekends, what you eating at nighttime, and just everybody's got a guilty indulgence.
That's true. The Titans have Tyler Boyd in town. Cincinnati Bengals wide receiver who met with the Los Angeles Chargers this week. 67 catches for 667 yards and 2 touchdowns last season. He has spent his entire 8-year career in Cincinnati, ranks 4th in franchise history in receptions. Is there area code 513?
Yeah.
He has 513 career catches.
Does he?
That's
really?
cool.
Which is a great reason to leave there and never go back, Tyler.
That's what I was thinking.
Wow. Yeah, leave it at that number.
It's time to leave
Start
it behind,
anew.
baby. Start new. The fact that he's available on the market this late to me, it ain't weird to me. It's just like I felt like Cincinnati would want to keep a guy like him around, but they
Me
probably
too.
already got plans behind him anyway. He's 29 and a half essentially right now. So we'll see. You know, he's at that threshold where a lot of teams are still trying to figure out what to do with today's wide receiver as far as age goes.
I first glance and just knowing, what he did there at Cincinnati, I just feel like he's a really solid dude, right? I mean, the consistency of this guy, he is always available. I think the one season he played just 10 games was back in 2017 when he first really got into the league. Other than that, you guys, he's been a durable player that's been pretty consistent at what he's supposed to produce.
Yeah, interesting. The reasoning why they are not bringing him back. Charlie Jones, 4th-round pick in last year's NFL draft, a guy they essentially kind of replaced the year before they knew Boyd was going to be gone. And his prime is behind him, right? Like career low in yards per catch last year in 10, lowest yardage output since his second year in the league in 667 yards, 29 years old, like Ramon mentioned. How much would you pay Tyler Boyd?
Man, here's my thing on Tyler Boyd. I was gonna say this later, but screw it. I'm gonna say it now. Like,
you can say it twice.
Looking at his stuff, yeah, I said you're right. We got 4 hours, man. My thing is this, as it pertains to his age. What am I willing to pay him? What do I? One is gonna be whatever he think he's worth. That has to play in a part of it. He's going to he already visited the Rams, so he's got a market. So you're going to somewhat have to pay for him. And again, the adjustment of the cap now is a little bit different, a little bit more money to spend for all teams and expectations spending money. What would I give him, Will? I truly don't know. But here's the thing that I know about Tyler Boyd and playing against him, watch him cook some of our DBs, linebackers, and middle of the field. To me, he is one of the premier receivers when it comes down to why we have seen an uptick and an evolution of nickel and dime corners. He is the reason why I know in Pittsburgh, for us, we were on the lookout for a nickel and dime corner to cover the slot. You look at him play, and down the middle is where he dwells. He will put his body on the line. He knows how to get down when contact's coming around him. He ain't all that fast, which is why he's the number 3.
Sure.
But he's a dude, man, that if you have him in your field, have him on the field, he is that third layer that Coach Mack like to talk about sometimes. You're 1, you're 2 outside, and he's down the middle. He's the reason for nickel DBs. How much I would pay him, Will? It depends on how good you think this offense is going to be and what type of weapons you think you want.
How much do the Titans have left to spend? Do we know that?
Plenty.
Okay,
Yeah, they still
so they
got a
still
good
got a big
$30.9
chunk,
million, 4th most in the NFL,
Okay.
according to Spot Track.
which includes needing to still sign a safety. So
And draft picks.
yes, correct.
I'd say $8 million. I'd say $6 million.
That's-
I
yeah.
don't know if it's $12 million. I truly, legitimately don't know on his price tag. But what I will say, if he's been healthy and you trust that he can work in this Callahan offense, oh yeah, he can because he
Yeah,
played in
'cause
it
he played
already. Then I would want him on the squad. Would it complicate some stuff? Yeah. So
But isn't
what?
all competition good competition?
The more weapons you can get for your quarterback to see if you can actually protect Will Levis, the best it's going to be for this team.
615-737-1045. Coming up next, we have reached the point where I don't think Colorado is anywhere close to America's team anymore in college football. We'll give you exactly what Deion Sanders has been saying with some Twitter fingers that are a bit too hot coming up next. It's hour number one of Ramon, Kayla, and Will. And if you listen to the fourth hour of RKW, then you hear Ramon Foster give you words of wisdom every morning. It is that your Twitter fingers and your mic are always hot. Well, there is a head coach, a sunglassed and often visored head coach in Boulder, Colorado, whose Twitter fingers are maybe a bit too warm on a random Wednesday in the football offseason. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Will Bolick, 615-737-1045. What is Deion Sanders doing?
Creating a lot of enemies, it seems. He is, like you said, his Twitter fingers and his mic is hot. Well, his kids are also. It's, I said it yesterday on Twitter. It's the Sanders versus, I put the transfer portal because he's sending a lot of kids and getting a lot of kids out. But it's the Sanders versus everybody at this point right now. That is, it's a lot of loud noise right now for the offseason for a team like theirs.
So the story of what's going on, in case you have missed it, playing out on social media, Max Olson of The Athletic wrote a story about the players that left Colorado this time last year and where they landed. Many of these players were okay with leaving, saying things like, not necessarily any hard feelings. Deion did things his way. One player even said at the end of it, at least I got to meet Deion Sanders. That's pretty cool. But then there was one player who actually transferred here in Clarksville to Austin Peay. And that is former Colorado safety Xavier Smith, who told The Athletic, quote, Deion Sanders never even tried to get to know me, and that Coach Prime was destroying guys' confidence and belief in themselves. So then you have Shedeur Sanders, Colorado's quarterback, posting on Twitter, this guy had to be very mid at best. That prompted a social media back and forth. Colorado wide receiver Caleb Mathis posted a video of himself beating Smith, in practice. Then you had one of Smith's Austin Peay teammates pointing out that player, Mathis, only had 38 receiving yards last year. And then you had Deion Sanders reposting his career stats with the observation, quote, Lord Jesus. And then you have Deion Sanders, people attacking his son, saying he will be a top 5 pick. Where your son going? LOL, I got time today. Why does Deion Sanders feel like he needs to take time to roast 19-year-olds on social media when he only won 4 games last year?
Well, that's the whole thing. I mean, if we're really serious about college football here and serious about taking Colorado to the next level and having them be competitive again, now that, by the way, they've moved to the Big 12, then they need to start focusing on football there. And I just feel like there's so much noise with Deion Sanders. And we knew that was going to be the case when he took the job at Colorado. I mean, that is a big reason why it's so intriguing for these young men, is because you heard it. I mean, they'd love to just meet Deion Sanders, let alone go play for Deion Sanders. But then once you're in that program, is that what you want to do to better your career? Is that the type of environment? Are you getting the type of coaching that you need to get to make you a better player, to get you to the ultimate goal of many of these young men, and that is playing in the NFL? And I just feel like at Colorado, where they got the hype early on and they won a certain amount of games and they were on Fox every single game day Saturday, after that wore off, it was almost like, okay, so like, what is Deion doing now? Is he actually trying to make this program better, or is it now about his sons and trying to just focus on them? I just think there's a lot of kind of noise, and I don't know the seriousness of what he's trying to do with that program right now. And that is one kid's opinion, but I feel like because of all the stuff we hear every other week about Deion Sanders, it's not necessarily about the program, right? It's about all the other outside stuff. I want to know about Colorado, the program, how it's advancing. How is it going to compete in the Big 12 this year? What's the schedule going to be like? We don't hear any of that. All we hear is all the outside junk. To me, that's not bettering a football program.
Yeah, so I feel the same way in a lot of ways on this one. The thing with Deion is this: I'm gonna say the quiet part out loud too. He's loud and he's black too. That's the other side behind it. I ain't gonna say even interrupted college football at all. No, I think if done right, he can recruit correctly and challenge some team. The issue that he has is he's burning a lot of bridges with a lot of different kids and a lot of different parents. The bigger issue that he has in front of him, other than the Twitter fingers, other than the stuff that he says, is something very unique about Deion Sanders. Not everybody else is Deion Sanders. You know what I'm saying? Like, he can say stuff and he can act a certain way and he can do a lot of stuff because he's Deion Sanders. He's prime. Everybody else around him ain't prime. That's the biggest issue. And I'll say this too. His persona is inviting. The way he goes about it has always been a show. Mm-hmm. He's always produced when he was in the show. And the people around him that carry his last name right now too are carrying that also. But the thing is, those individuals, as far as accolades go, to where Deion was at that point in his life versus where they are right now, other than the fact that they're very social media popular, they're not Deion Sanders. So when you have people that back up everything that Deion is doing, and he has a great following, but you can't justify his following in today's world of playing against Power Fives because he's yet to do anything big. To your point, Kayla, that's the issue. You got to go win. You can't be loud and losing. Those two things do not mix right there. And when you start getting to the point where he's starting to wrestle with words on social media with prospects and basically telling them, get the heck on, and I'm bringing my luggage and I'm making all these announcements. And I mean, the amount of money I'm sure he's brought to Colorado has given him a lot of grace, has given him a lot of stock in that community and just around the world too. The amount of people that either bet on them or against them have made a lot of money, especially in those 8 straight losses, however many losses it was in a row. He got to go win. This is going to be unless he's about to crush, and it ain't just one a year, because to have only one 5-star, I know he got the big tackle last year, and he's got Travis Hunter, and he's got Shador. Who else on that team can you name?
Shiloh.
Who else on that team can you name?
I know, right. Shiloh Sanders.
Yeah,
it's his son.
What I'm saying is Shiloh is not that type of guy either to be garnering this type of friction on social media themselves. Like, they're blatantly crapping on players that were there or want to come there or just fans in general. And it does give a stain to it. Well, I'll say this. If he goes and balls, Shador, Shiloh, Travis Hunter doesn't really even say much. He doesn't say anything. And I'm all about people having their ability to express themselves. Heck, that's what the First Amendment, right? Say what you're able to say what you want to. But what happens is people hold receipts. And right now he's getting other family members of his dragged into it. There are people posting his daughter's basketball stats who transferred from Jackson State to Colorado. She averaged like 16% shooting completion rate. She averaged 0.6 points a game. I didn't know that. Nobody needed to know that. Like, she got like maybe 3 minutes a game in Colorado. Like, now everybody in his family is open season on him. Like, because they somewhat invite that. If you can't handle this level of criticism, and it happens, people dogged out Heupel. They still dog out Former. We talk bad about Saban here. Heck, I'm still talking trash about Kentucky football. This happens in Power 5 schools. And I don't want to lay on the fact that, hey, everybody's against Deion because he's a black man. No, absolutely not. You can't be loud and losing in today's world. People love Floyd Mayweather. Why? Because he's a winner.
Right.
That's all he's ever done was win. People love Muhammad Ali. I can't correlate and say, hey, you can't be loud and win. No, you can be loud, black, and still win and still have a whole lot of support. The issue for Deion is not everybody is you. You're Deion Primetime Sanders. The people that want to act like you and ride the wave of yours will fall flat if they don't have your support. The Sanders will be okay in Travis Hunter. Everybody else need to just realize that, hey, they got to go to work. And that well-off media that they have is way different whenever they're away from the University of Colorado.
Well, and who's to say? That's why I said I like the fact that Travis Hunter isn't saying a lot, because I'm not saying you can't say what is on your mind, but there's so many people in his family that are talking. Maybe he just wants to play. That's the thing. Maybe he just wants to go and play.
Who's that?
Travis Hunter.
Travis, I don't even correlate him to this conversation because he's yet to involve himself in it.
That's what I'm saying, though, because he's like, I'm not going to get into all of this. I'm going to go and play. And Shedeur Sanders, who is out there saying stuff, like, that's fine. That's his personality. And maybe he takes on his dad's personality when it's all said and done. Maybe he goes to the league and balls out. That's fine. But you don't need all these mouthpieces at Colorado right now when they haven't done anything. And I feel like Deion can do that all he wants, but at some point it's going to be an issue because if they don't win, people are going to be like, okay, when do we move on from him, right? But it's like all these other parts of his family feel like they're, able to speak out too when they haven't won. It's just a really weird situation, and it sets his family up for criticism, which I don't like to do because I don't know those young men, right?
Yeah.
That's not my business to sit there and pick at them or their daughter.
Yeah.
Doesn't it feel like the 2-time transfer rule might change things for Deion a little bit? Because now these guys that transfer in aren't locked in. So this offseason, more than 30 Colorado players have moved on. 18 of those are guys that Deion Sanders originally got in the transfer portal in year one.
Yeah. And again, he's going to have to chase this. I looked it up. He has I think the 5th rated transfer portal class from this past year. But here's the thing. The number 1 is Alabama at 12, and they got 12. He's number 6 on the list, and he's got 35 commitments, and only 8 of those 35 been 4 stars.
So what is Shedeur Sanders now as an NFL prospect? Because next March, we're going to hear a lot about character concerns with this guy. Or are we?
I think it's going to come up. How do you control him? His dad saying he only wants to go to a certain spot or certain teams. Again, I think the young man is talented. I do see a situation where his O-line didn't help him. I mean, and he also got to make some plays too. When you're a good quarterback, you overcome a lot of bad things too. And that's the questions that he's going to have again. He's going to have to answer. I can't wait to see it play out. I don't know what it's going to look like for him because defensively last year, they were trash. They just were. Offensively, they couldn't get on the same page other than, like I said, having 1 or 2 playmakers in the run game and the effectiveness of Travis Hunter. It is the Sanders and everybody else show when it comes Sanders and Travis Hunter show when it boils down to how they are operating right now. At least that's how it's perceived. So, what does he look like next year? He will be critiqued. He will be criticized all this year. If he's playing their schedule, they're going to get lit up. Teams are going to try to over-blitz them. What are the skill players that they have, and who offensively is calling the plays for them? These are the questions that's going to have to be answered for a guy like him who is, again, loud on social media and have a huge presence.
I actually like Shedeur Sanders, and I know he talks a lot, but I do think he's talented. My big question, and would be the hardest question because I don't think he'll ever sit down and probably realize this, but are you best playing for your dad? Are you best playing for the University of Colorado? Is that going to make you the next big quarterback in the NFL? Not that's just going to get drafted. The next quarterback that's going to be successful and have a career. Because I believe he can do that, but I don't really know if that's going to set him up for success staying at Colorado with his father, which I know that's what he's going to do. But I'm just throwing it out there. Would he be able to have a better chance at being a better quarterback somewhere else?
I don't think he has an option right now.
No, but it's something to throw out there because, I mean, his dad, he's under his dad. You know what he's probably going to do in terms of growth there at Colorado, right? I mean, he'll stay this year and then go? How much better do you think he's going to get there?
There's an opportunity for him to be really good. It is. But it starts with his offensive line, which they've been recruiting a lot of players to do it. Offensively, can they make call plays for him that shows that he's NFL caliber and ready? How does he use his legs? What does their offense look like if he's not scrambling and he's got protection? Those are all answers that we will see. And again, his defense did not help him. His defense and offensive line did not help him last year. I will say that. You're as good as the talent that's around you. But as it pertains to that many losses, last year again, and they had some closer games. They last game of the year lost 23-17 to Utah, and you guys, Kayla, Washington State beat them 56-14.
Yeah,
that's where them going to the Big 12 is going to be very problematic for them. And even lost Senior Day last year, 34-31 to Arizona. Arizona wasn't no great team last year.
It's interesting. They start the season with North Dakota State, which is one of the dumbest things that Deion Sanders has ever done. That is not a team that you schedule if you want clout. That is a team that you run away from because they will beat you if you are not ready to play in week one.
Yes, they will.
Which is honestly the way TCU probably felt about Colorado last year. Like, this is not in our best interest for TCU. And Colorado beat them. And then the whole season was downhill from there.
It was, and that's where, like I said, the louder they get and the more they chastise people on social media, the bigger the target is on their back. And maybe again, I see Grip and the F&M Bank chat says that everyone hate for Deion. That's what fueled him. Oh, okay, that's what fueled Deion. Again, my thing is I don't have a problem with how Deion goes about it. Deion Sanders, Prime, goes about it. You can't talk like you're Deion, though. You're not prime time tour. You go to the combine, you run a 40, and you go straight to your limousine. You don't meet with other teams out of the top 3 because you know you're not going no further than that. Like, it's one thing to say, "Hey, I'm great," and you show people that you're great. But it's another thing to attach yourself to somebody else's greatness. That's the biggest issue that I have. I love the movement that he has. I love the just the amount of money that he's able to make around those guys, and for the ones that are in his circle. To me, I think that's super cool. But again, if I'm trusting you at a university, and I don't care if it's at Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, if I'm trusting you that you're going to recruit and treat my son like your son, and I don't see those same effects, that's where it also becomes very problematic, because a lot of these kids are coming to you because you are prime, and they are somewhat being thrown on the back burner because they're not your type. But you recruited them and asked them to come there.
You're prime, but now you're their coach. That's the thing. You're prime, and we know who prime is, and we knew what he did in the NFL. But now you're more than prime. You're their coach. You're their mentor, right? It's a next level of. It's after the awe and shock of, oh, this is prime. This is Deion Sanders. He's now your coach, and he's a guy that's supposed to set you up for success.
Yeah.
We always talk about how you can't be boring and bad in sports and keep your job. They are bad, but they're certainly not boring.
They're not boring.
No.
And they're still going to get TV ratings, and they're still going to get butts in the seats because people are going to hate watch them. It's why you have shock jock radio hosts in big markets, because you'll hate listen, right? I'm going to watch Colorado. We will be there, is my response to Colorado's downfall. We will be there. So, like, he's going to get what he wants, which is attention on his program, and a certain kind of kid that wants to go somewhere and be the villain. Yeah. I just don't think he's there once Shedeur leaves. And I don't think he can jump to the NFL anymore the more he continues this. Now, he says he doesn't want to go to the NFL. Yeah, right. I don't believe that for a second. But he's limiting his options post-Colorado the more he talks. That's, I think, the biggest thing. He could be successful there. It's going to take some time. I don't think he can go just wherever he wants now after this.
All I would tell him is be right. You got to be right. We will
keep the receipts and be there August 29th when they play the Bison of North Dakota State. 615-737-1045, our number. NFL Network's Daniel Jeremiah yesterday made a very interesting claim about a quarterback competition this season that I don't think a lot of people expected to be a competition. That's next.
It's Ramon Foster, Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, man. Have y'all ever had a contractor come into your house and it takes forever? you feel like you've wasted your entire day. Well, guess what? When you call Hiller, you don't have to camp out at your house all day. I told you guys, I book with Hiller for stuff that I have going on around my house. One, they'll send you a text. They'll send you also a text of the tech that is coming to your house with his picture, license plates of the vehicle he's driving, and the exact time that he will be there. And before they get there, hey, they'll give you a 15-minute warning call. So you're not just right there at your house twirling your thumb when you can be figuring out other issues that you have to get done in your day-to-day tasks. But you can also be a happy camper this month with zero interest financing too for 24 months on select HVAC systems, generators, and tankless water heaters. Or take advantage of Hiller's $99 drain cleaning special. Take care of your home system before the peak summer temperatures hit. So visit happyhiller.com today for details.
In a copycat league, there is a team in the NFL who might be trying to recreate what the Titans had in Ryan Tannehill. It's RKW, Ramon, Kayla, and Will, brewed by 8th and Rose, 615-737-1045. NFL Network's Daniel Jeremiah writes yesterday that he thinks Drew Lock has better chances of being QB1 of the New York Giants than people think. Now, Daniel Jones is still under contract for 3 more years, but there are reports out there that Drew Lock might be in a quarterback competition with Daniel Jones in the New York Giants. Do you believe this, or do you believe this is a way to motivate Danny Dimes in the offseason?
I think it's a little bit of both. I do. Kayla, I think it's a little bit of both. Why would you say that out loud if you got a $100 million quarterback on your roster? Number one, he's going to see it. It's New York media. Somebody's going to ask him soon as OTAs tick off, right, Kayla? Isn't that something that you like? It would be brought up, like, hey, what do your coach think about saying Drew Lock is right here with you? I think it's problematic for New York. I think they're probably somewhat setting themselves up again next year to be a top 10 pick to get a quarterback. It's their easy way out right now is to stir the pot a little bit, Will. And for me, I like Drew Lock. I'll be honest with you. I ain't got much against him. He's just this. He's fine. He's all right.
Yeah.
Like, he can do some good stuff for you, and he's competitive. The thing about Danny Dimes is, what is he? You don't know if he's a long ball guy. You don't know if he's an athletic runner. Can he actually command and hold an offense together? And it seemed like they've tried to build around him. Granted, his same thing we spoke about with Shador as far as offensive line protection or Will Levis, that does matter. But they're trying to build around him. And at some point, he just always has these snafus of tripping over himself or bad interceptions or seeing ghosts. The New York media is built for certain type of quarterbacks, and I don't know if Danny Dimes is built for that New York team like that.
Ever since Eli Manning left, they've had a quarterback problem, and they have a quarterback problem now. Like, they've given up essentially on Danny Dimes, and I know they're giving him another shot. You bring in Drew Lock. I like they bring in Drew Lock from a competitive aspect, because I will say this, watching him in Seattle and what he did in terms of just bringing some competition with Geno, and kind of they made each other better. And you saw when Drew Lock came in, was able to kind of step up to the plate. But that's all I look at him as, is a guy that can come in and maybe hold it down for a few games. You look at his overall career, the most games he ever started was in Denver in 2020. That was 13 games. And it's not like this guy has an incredible winning record. I think he was 9-15 overall with Denver in his time in Denver in 2 seasons. And like I said, in Seattle, was talked about at one point as winning the quarterback job, but did not. The comeback player of the year, and Geno Smith did. I think this is good for competition. I don't think he's going to necessarily win the starting job, but I do think at times if they think that Danny Dimes is not stepping up to the task, they'll put Drew Lock in. The problem with the Giants, though, is there's no quarterbacks on there in terms of being your franchise dude moving forward.
They gave Daniel Jones a $160 million extension last year. He suffered a neck injury during Week 5 of the 2023 season, causing him to miss 2 games, and then went down shortly after his return with an ACL tear in Week 8. He played in and started 6 games last year, Daniel Jones, going 1-5 in those games. He's never had a good offensive line the whole time he's been there. 2 years ago, the Giants won a playoff game with him as their quarterback. They got absolutely torched by the Philadelphia Eagles then in that playoffs, but he was just good enough for them to give him a lot of money and just bad enough for them to not have a lot of confidence in him. And that is the worst place to be as an NFL franchise with your quarterback, is halfway between good and bad. I think the interesting thing is, what does he look like off of an ACL tear? Is Drew Lock more so insurance for a guy that is known for his athleticism and is not 100% healthy coming into training camp?
And here's the other portion of it, too. Fair or unfair, here's something that's attached to Daniel Jones is he was trained up and coached by Coach Cutcliffe. He's from the Manning tree. You expect there to be something good to come out of him. The issue is it's New York. They're in the NFC East, and they got a tough schedule to deal with just in general. I mean, the teams they're facing, they're not at that level. I mean, you have a quarterback that's somewhat middle of the road. His win record was 1-5. You said that, 9-6-1 is just what he's just middle of the road. And if you ain't got a stacked enough team and enough weapons around dudes like this is what your team looks like. Do I blame Danny Dimes? Somewhat, yeah. He's got to make better decisions. He's got to close out games. He's got to not turn the ball over when you look at the way he plays football. And he ain't overly bad in that department. But as it pertains to him being the guy, the fact that they only extended him out for just over $100 million says a lot about their commitment to him and what they're planning on moving forward. And again, their other issues is can they find a head coach that can actually run the team and put a good product out there in general too?
Yeah, they're a mess.
They are a mess.
They are a total mess. And you have two quarterbacks, you don't have any. And now they got Malik Neighbors to try to fix it. We'll see. He was good in 2022. I mean, I'll give him that. Completed in that season in 2022, 67% of his passes, over 3,000 yards, 15 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. He's sneaky athletic. Vanilla Vic.
Yeah.
We'll see. It is the worst place to be in the NFL, quarterback purgatory.
A playoff team, too. They beat Minnesota in playoffs, and they also end up losing to Philly again 7-38.
Did Dable win Coach of the Year that year?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
That was quick.
Yeah.
615-737-1045, our number. Coming up, the big headline of the morning, Jeremy Fowler is reporting that the Titans are taking a look at a former Brian Callahan wide receiver in Cincinnati. Who else, though, is pursuing Tyler Boyd? We'll dive into that next.
What's going on? 7 o'clock. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. Titans bringing in a ghost of Callahan's past, former Bengal Tyler Boyd. Scheduled some visits, visiting the Chargers earlier this week. He is apparently in Nashville, if you can trust that Instagram. Tyler, if you're listening, go ahead and sign. We need a 920. That'd be really nice. Actually, we don't need a 920. We got Matt Miller. Matt Miller will be on with us. Boyd, who turns 30 in November, started 13 games for Cincinnati last year, catching 67 balls for 667 yards and 2 touchdowns. NBA playoffs last night, Mavs dominated the Kawhi Leonard-less Clippers, 123-93, taking the series to 3-2. Mavs, as the Game 6 heads back to Dallas, and while the Mavs are headed back to Dallas, the Heat are headed back home after losing Game 5 to Boston, 118-84. Boston Celtics winning by 34 points. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Hour number 2 starts right now on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. RKW brewed up by 8th and Rose. 615-737-1045 is how you join Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Robert Walsh, and myself, Will Bowling. Coming up in 20 minutes, we will be joined by Titans Radio's head coach, Coach Dave McGinnis, presented as always by Two Rivers Ford. His thoughts on the Titans draft class and perhaps his thoughts on a man who is reportedly in town today. Cincinnati Bengals wide receiver Tyler Boyd, 4th all-time in franchise history with 513 receptions. That is the area code of the bad chili-making city. Are the Titans the best possible fit for Tyler Boyd of the teams that are interested in him, which we know are the Steelers, the Chiefs, the Jets, and the Chargers, based on what has been reported?
I would say the obvious in this, in terms of being the best fit, yes, because of just who he had at Cincinnati as his offensive coordinator, and that's Brian Callahan. And I know that that's probably the more simple answer, but it's facts. I mean, you look at what he was able to do over there, being pretty productive, and he is kind of more going down in terms of his numbers. He's 29 years old. If you look at his numbers from, 2021 to 2023, there's definitely been a decline where in 2020 and 2021, he was still in the 800s, right? 841 yards, 828. Then it goes and dips down to about 762. And then last season, a low at 667, which you do probably have to add in the fact, Joe Burrow wasn't healthy all last year. We don't know what happens in terms of those offenses when you have your backups coming in. And did that kind of maybe cut his numbers a little bit? But yeah, there's no doubt he's reaching that 30 mark and his prime days are probably behind him. But he's still a guy that plays a lot of football. He is available, which is a good thing, and proved to be that under Callahan during his time there. I just think it's probably the more simple transition to go somewhere where you already know what to expect, and therefore you're probably going to be more productive in that place when you know what you're going to be doing and what your role is.
Man, I actually somewhat go the opposite direction on this one. I think he's still been a steady Eddie on what he's been asked to do. Just as far as, like you said, the quarterback position being somewhat sporadic last year for Cincinnati, he still cleared over 660 yards on about 60-something reception. He is what you want a number 3 to be, a true number 3 to be. He can get the ball. He's not this. The thing that separates him, I think, from T. Higgins and Jamar Chase is his speed. He doesn't have elite speed as it pertains to his style of play, but what he does have is the ability to get open. He separates well. He makes combative catches. When it comes down to route running, he knows exactly where he's going and how he's going to get open too. I think for number 3, as far as fits, with what we've seen from Traylon, As of late, if you want a sure commodity, you go after a guy like Tyler Boyd and you tell Traylon, hey, figure this thing out. The more, the better. And somewhat probably plays a role in some points if Tyler Boyd is out, then you have Traylon somewhat fill that role too. The more weapons you have for this team, the better. I actually think he's been very fine. Every year that he's been in Cincinnati, he's been behind behind number one and number two consistently. And that 67 to me is probably a situation to where Jake Browning, the flow of the offense. They've had offensive line issues and stuff like that. I think at 29, turning 30, he's probably got 2, maybe even 3 really good years in this role for whoever he decides to go to. That's where I stand on it because I've seen him do this and not do much more than catch the ball, cause issues to linebackers, and nickel and dime corners over the middle.
Now, Will, what I will say is maybe he feels he's a better fit where he has a better quarterback. And I'm not saying Will Levis is not a good quarterback, but he's unproven at this point. So maybe Tyler Boyd feels like, hey, I could be a fit more so in this Los Angeles Chargers system where I have more of a proven quarterback. And I know Justin Herbert hasn't overwhelmed us, but I think right now you could probably say he's more of a stable quarterback than Will Levis. So maybe he says, I want to finish off my career in a place where maybe I can get my numbers up a little more because of who's throwing to me and how they'll utilize me over there.
So the 3 depth charts of the teams not named the Chiefs, I think people are familiar with where the Chiefs are. Obviously adding Marquise Brown, adding Xavier Worthy in the draft at wide receiver. The Chargers, I guess, top 3 receivers would be Joshua Palmer, the former Tennessee receiver, Quentin Johnston, the first-round pick last year out of TCU, who had a very disappointing rookie year, and now Georgia slot lad McConkey, who they drafted in the second round. You've got Brendan Rice out of USC, who was also drafted by LA. You had 3 receivers drafted by the Chargers. You look at Pittsburgh, a team that has reportedly been in the mix but doesn't want to pay Tyler Boyd what he thinks he's worth. Well, Pittsburgh got a slot in the draft themselves as well, and Michigan wide receiver Roman Wilson. But Pittsburgh does have a need there. I think the speculation is that maybe Brandon Ayuk, Mike Tomlin's twin, is the fix in Pittsburgh. George Pickens, Van Jefferson, Roman Wilson would be their top 3 on paper. But you've got Quez Watkins, you've got Denzel Mims, you've got Calvin Austin, the kid from Memphis out of Harding Academy out there and played at University of Memphis. And then the New York Jets as well, who also drafted a wide receiver in Western Kentucky product Malachi Corley. They've got Garrett Wilson and former Charger Mike Williams, who, again, when we get into the training camp time of year and we play the, hey, remember that guy game and where he ended up? That's one that I think will trip us up, the fact that Mike Williams is there. I think the Titans are the best fit. I think the Titans have the biggest need. I think the Titans will give Tyler Boyd the most money because they have the most space available. And I think the familiarity under Brian Callahan means that Tyler Boyd could walk into this team and know that he has a role and he's going to get targets.
It was. To me, again, it's the perfect fit. The offense he knows. And every good coach always brings 1 or 2 guys that was under his tenure and the former place that he was in. He can legitimately fit this role so well. Again, not having a true slot here. Because that's, if you look at the majority of his tape, that's where he's lining up at. And that's, well, I'll say this. That's where the majority of his plays are being made at, is over the middle in the slot. He can go to the flat. You watch him break away from guys. He's not your 1, your 2. He's your 3 and 4. Team that needs a very solid 3. That, to me, screams Nashville, Tennessee.
So let's play that name that wide receiver game. Who was the number 2 receiver for the Titans last year, and how many yards did he have without looking? Number 2 wide receiver for the Titans in 2023. How many yards?
That's a difficult question. Chig, he's a tight end. Yeah.
Chigakonkwo, 545.
It's very close, actually. Chigakonkwo, 528 yards.
Yeah.
Was the second leading receiver for the Tennessee Titans. The second receiver at just that position,
NWI?
That's a little bit of a harder question. It's not Nick Westbrook-Akine.
Dang.
From Houston.
Yep. Chris Moore.
Jeez Louise.
424 yards.
That's bad.
There is a need.
Yeah.
There is a big need. I cannot really say that a guy who had 667 yards is declining that much, considering the Titans' number 3 out-and-out wide receiver was NWI last year, who had 370 yards.
And I know there's people, Timmy in the chat says, this doesn't look good for Burks. That's not necessarily true. I mean, if you sign this guy, yeah, it doesn't make it any easier for Burks, but do look at it this way. I feel like they're going to give Burks every opportunity this year to try to be something for this team because he is younger. If you look at the 3 wide receivers, if they do sign Tyler Boyd, the average age of them is about 29.6, okay, of DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley, and Tyler Boyd. This is a quicker fix. It's not a long-term fix because you are going to have to bring in youth at some point or use the youth that's on your roster. But it is something to set Will Levis up for success in every way possible now. And that's what this team is worried about doing right now. They need to see what this quarterback is made of. So why not give him weapons now?
My thing is, for the folks that's worried about Burks and whether they sign Tyler Boyd or not, that ain't your concern. As a fan, it's going to go to the wayside if Tyler Boyd's in that stadium making plays. He accumulates 112 yards over the weekend.
Right.
That's just how it goes. And I'm probably just been a little too brutal about how I go about this, but I'm always going to be honest with you guys as it pertains to what matters in this league. Wins and losses matter in this league. That's it.
And
Wins
availability.
And yeah. And for a guy that can make plays for you, it ain't your concern what happens with Traylon Burks. Traylon Burks has to figure this thing out on his own also. That's the other side of it for me.
Coming up next, Coach Dave McGinnis will join the show for his weekly visit. Coach Mac's breakdown of the Titans' new draft class and the kind of player that Tyler Boyd is in an 8-year career out of Pittsburgh with the Cincinnati Bengals. Titans Radio's head coach joins us next.
It's Ramon Foster here for United Structural Systems. I'm here to tell you right now, if you're having some foundation issues right now, or just simply in a spot to where you have your business have sidewalk issues, I'm here to tell you about my guy Brad here in Nashville, who said they had a sidewalk issue on their campus and created a trip hazard for them. And the ADA issue said he placed a call to United Structural Systems to give them a quote on their concrete poly lifting service, which raises up the sidewalk so that people don't trip and fall and create a bad issue for you. Said the process was quick and easy for them. The communication was excellent from the first call until completion. Saved them thousands of dollars over having to replace 2 panels on the sidewalks. And the best thing about it is, it said when they left, the work site was neat and clean with no evidence that they had been there. He said, as a director of facilities himself, USS is a partner you need in your contact list. If you need anything done around your work or business as it pertains to waterproofing or foundation issues, I'm simply going to give you the website right now. It's USSTN.com. Reach out to the folks that I trust, United Structural Systems.
Thursday morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will rolling right along with a full crew in studio. And this music means it is time to visit with Titans Radio's head coach, Coach Tay McGinnis, brought to you by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer, Two Rivers Ford. Coach Mack, what's up?
How we doing?
What's up,
We're
Coach?
good. We're very good. We went through the best Coach Mack-isms from Mike Keith on the OTP and on draft coverage over the last couple of days.
Yeah, that's a dangerous thing to do.
It is a very dangerous thing to do. We're talking about, blades, talking about Coke machines, trash mashers. Did you have a favorite, Coach Mack, way to describe a prospect during this draft process?
Really the truth is I can't remember what I say.
Perfect.
It's just at the moment, it just jumps out, and that comes, it's very organic, and it's very real, and it's, of course, you guys know me, I'm not very smart, so there's not much thought that goes into it.
All about that.
But I've been in a few draft rooms, so I've heard a lot of terms in my life, and they just come out pretty quick when you're doing players. I mean, how much I love doing the draft. I really love doing the draft, with Titans Radio. We just put a lot of work in, but we have a good time with it, too. And there's nobody better to direct the band than Mike Keith. So we have a lot of fun with it.
Absolutely. And we had a lot of fun listening, as always. You guys crushed it, as you always do, on the Titans radio crew. Mac, we are the last show to talk with you since the Titans drafted J.C. Latham. Obviously, since we talked to you on draft day last year, a lot of that has been discussed and analyzed over the last week. But as you look at him as a prospect, what made him specifically unique among the other options the Titans had at tackle against an Olu Fashanu and some of the other choices that they had with the number 7 overall pick?
Well, this is the most physically imposing offensive tackle in the draft, the strongest by far, and then just the size and the athleticism, and then plus you start looking at what his background and what he's done. I mean, this is a guy that chose to leave home at 15 years old and go to IMG, which is at the absolute top of what goes on, in high school football. And then he goes to Alabama. And the guy has always put himself in a position to compete at the highest level, no matter what's going on. And then you start digging into the person himself. I mean, I think you've got pretty much of what you want. And the size and the power. We always talk about, and this football team needed to strengthen their profile on both sides of the line of scrimmage, especially with the physicality of it. And this guy brings it. I've just spent the last, they're still going through, the second phase of their off-season programs, so they can have individual drills now on the field that can't go against offensive defense. So I've spent the last mornings going up there and watching Bill Callahan just work individual drills, and it's impressive. I can't wait to see when he gets this draft class in here and watch them work together. But, you pair a player like this with a coach like this, I think there's some really good things coming of it.
Coach Mack, man, welcome back to joining us, man. I'm glad to hear your voice, Coach Mack. We did have fun with your coach speak the other day, man, because everybody does it, and we were reeling off stuff that coaches told us in the past. One of the best ones, I'm gonna mess it up, Coach Mack, but it was what, Will or Kayla? It's just like your mother-in-law driving off a cliff in a Cadillac. What was the rest of that one?
It's bittersweet.
It's bittersweet.
Yeah, it's bittersweet.
Like your mother-in-law driving off a cliff in a Cadillac.
Coach Mack.
Yeah, there's always good and bad in everything in life. Depends on which side you're looking at.
The other one, Coach Mack, was like a woodpecker in a petrified forest. Just keep your head up and look for opportunities.
You keep your head up and keep banging your head against the wall, too.
I love it, Coach Mack. One thing that I know goes on behind the scenes is planning for the future, man. And J.C. Latham's this franchise left tackle of the future, and Peter Skoronski's the left guard. Coach Mack, what is the conversation and understanding of growth from the coaching staff when you have two young guys that you want to grow up to see be great? How do you temper that as a coaching staff and also for the team?
Well, they've both got to go to work. I mean, I'm watching, Peter work up there right now. And as I said, I'm really excited about, watching JC come in here, but look, you try to get the best players that in your mind and that fit not only physically but temperamentally of what you're trying to build. And then you pair them, with a professional coach that's going to give them a chance. But at the end of the day, it's just like in your case, Ramon. At the end of the day, and I would tell rookies this all the time because I was in charge of a lot of rookie classes. The 15 years I was an assistant head coach with Jeff Fisher. When I was in charge of the rookie class and I had a chance to talk to him, I said, look, you have been chosen. We chose you to come into this building. That's how you got in the front door. Now, how you stay and how long you stay and what you make of this career, you choose that. You choose that. And that's the same chance everybody's going to get when they come in here. But you've got to be able to have and I always used to say, and I think you will agree with this, at the bottom of your list, when you become a professional player, is getting paid to play. That's at the bottom of the list. There's a lot more that goes on above that that's important.
Coach Mack, when it comes to this one particular draft pick, man, James Williams, the linebacker safety out of Miami, just how excited as a coach will you be to have a guy like him that's that flexible, has a lot of room for growth, Coach Mack, but the sky's the limit for a dude if he really picks up and really adjusts to the NFL?
Well, I kind of knew what their thinking was on that because, as I said, I've been in this defensive system. I mean, I worked closely with it for a lot of years, 5 years, particularly with this group of defensive coaches. When we were at the Rams, I mean, this is a multiple personnel package defensive program that Denard's installing. And I expect them, again, I don't talk to them about it, but I expect them to take him immediately to put him in the room with Frank Bush, let Frank Bush, start teaching him the nuances, and then they will use him as quickly as possible as a hybrid piece in this defense. You guys remember a guy named Mark Barron that was at Alabama?
Alabama, yeah.
Right.
I was teammates with him for a year.
Okay, well now, so when we were at the Rams, we were looking for that piece. Mark Barron was drafted by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to play a two-high safety down there in that Tampa 2. Mark Barron was a great player and a great person. I mean, one of my favorite, but that was not quite his wheelhouse. Well, we brought him in there. We brought him in there to L.A. and made that hybrid player out of him in those altered packages, and he just took off. Because I mean, you've got to be able to pair it, and then you got to have some creativity to you. This kid's got a lot of physical ability. I mean, and when you look at it, and I know that they're going to not know because I don't ask them. I mean, it's up to them what they do. But I can see them putting him in Frank Bush's room, and then he'll be an immediate special teams guy. But this is a guy that, as you said, got some athletic, but he's got size that you can match him on tight ends. This is a matchup guy, and it's going to be interesting to see how he develops.
Coach Mack, we've heard all of the breakdowns on T'Vondre Sweat. First, I'm going to ask for just your excitement in terms of bringing this big man to the program. But why is he maybe the best fit here in Tennessee with the mentor that he will have on that line and, the position coach he has on that line?
Well, first Rock. I mean, Tracy Rocker is the perfect matchup for him. That's number one. And here's the other thing, too. You got Jeffrey Simmons, who, now that Aaron Donald is gone, I mean, he's in clearly the upper tier of what goes on. But if you have one guy like that, you need somebody else because now here's what's going to happen. I mean, Jeffrey Simmons is a 3 technique, which means, he plays on the outside shoulder of the guard. He can move. I mean, he's a big, powerful. He's an anomaly. He's a big, powerful guy that can play knockback. He can also move around you, get around you. But if you don't have somebody else that is occupying people, then he's going to get the double teams. Now, put him at a 3. You put Big Sweat over there at the shade, and now you got 2 guys you're going to have to occupy 4. I mean, ask Ramon sitting right there with you. Now, you got 2 guys like that can collapse not only the center guard triangle, but can handle enough people in there that they're going to both demand double teams. Then the linebackers can start to play freely. So, I mean, to me, Sweat he's a 3-down player. He comes in here and gets into NFL condition, which he will. But when you really watch him, I mean, this guy's got athletic ability, and plus, I mean, there's not many humans that are walking around like that. I mean, it's just different. I've been around big dudes all my life, all the years I've been in this league, but there's some that are just different. This guy's different. And there's a reason why Jeffrey Simmons sent a text immediately to Ran Carthon saying thank you, because I think that we understand that we needed something else on that defense, especially defensive front.
Yeah.
This is a good start.
Absolutely. Also, I feel like a really good pick and a steal, if you want to call that, is the linebacker out of North Carolina, Cedric Gray. Coach, we had Ran Carthon on recently, and he said this is a guy that's going to definitely probably compete for the green dot, and also mentioned, hey, Amani Hooker emailed me after, I kind of put that out there and said, I'd also like to compete for that.
Well, people got to understand the green dot. I mean, it's not some magical thing. Mm-hmm. First of all, once they put the headset in for the defense, it was another world. We went years when the offense had it and the defense was still sending smoke signals in to be able to signal a defense in. Well, once you get that, basically all you're doing with that is you get the defense in your head. That's all. The rest of it, recognizing formations, setting the front and all that, whether you've got the green dot or not, you've got to be able to do that. This player is someone I really liked. I liked him a lot at the Senior Bowl. You put on he's got a GPS to the ball. He's a tackler. And again, as I say, you put him in Frank Bush's room, he'll get him ready to play pretty quick.
Coach Tate McGinnis, presented by Two Rivers Ford, our guest every Thursday on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. Coach Mack with the fifth-round pick, Jarvis Brownlee, a corner out of Louisville, is added by the Titans. Played in 11 games with 9 starts in 2023, had an interception, and led Louisville with 11 pass breakups in 2022. We had a draft analyst on yesterday who said he thinks it's not unfair to say there's a little bit of L'Jarius Sneed in his game. What do you see from Brownlee on film?
Well, that's high praise, and of course he's going to have to prove it. His secondary coach, a guy named Steve Ellis, that recruits cornerbacks for Louisville all across the nation. I mean, he's one of in college football, one of the cornerback gurus that goes and recruits everywhere. He came and sat with me at the combine, just watching these guys, and he's been in my ear about this guy, for quite a while. Watching him at the Senior Bowl, and then I talked to Denard yesterday at practice just about him, and I said, How about your corner? And here's what Denard wants, and he said it. And look, you got to believe when you listen to Denard Wilson talk in those press conferences, he's not just talking like that because it's a press conference. That's the way he is. That's the way he is. That's the way he is, and that's the way he is in the meeting rooms. But what he wants is physical players. This kid's a physical player. He is a physical player, and he's a guy that, you're going to know where he is on the field really, really quickly. I really like this player. I like him at the catch point. He's a very physical. He's played a lot of press coverage because that's what Steve Ellis did with him there at Louisville. I think he'll compete. I think he'll compete. He'll compete for the fourth cornerback spot pretty quick. And he can play the slot, which I like. There are a lot of slot corners in this draft. You can also flip him to the outside. I'm interested to watch him and see how fast he progresses. But I liked him. I liked his tape, and then I really liked him. He stood out at the Senior Bowl because he was challenging people in their grill every practice.
Coach Mack, going back to Devondre Sweat, and when you're 360 pounds, you get 2 questions about him because you could almost make him 2 prospects instead of 1, like you guys talked about on Titans Radio. What will be the first thing Tracy Rocker will want to teach him in rookie minicamp and in training camp to work on going into his first season?
Well, look, any defensive player that's come into this league, regardless of where you are playing, you have to learn how to use your hands because your shock and shed in this league is everything. Athletes are too good on each side of the line of scrimmage. That's the first thing that they have to learn because in college ball, wherever they play, they can run through, dip and rip, and do those. And you got to shock and shed to get people off of you, and I'm sure that's the first thing that he will go. Get off, shock and shed. This guy's got a really good first step. But I've been on the staff with Tracy Rocker. I know how he coaches these defensive linemen, so they're going to get the real deal right from the jump with him. I promise you.
Coach Mack, it's been reported that former Western Kentucky and Texas Tech offensive lineman Cole Spencer is projected to sign with the Titans as an undrafted free agent, and they think highly of him because of the signing bonus reportedly given to him. What does it mean to be able to find undrafted gems like that, Coach Mack, that you believe can contribute within even maybe the first year for you?
I got 2 words for you: Bill Callahan. I mean, that's and again, any offensive lineman that is brought here now during this group is going to have the blessing of Bill Callahan, and that is all good with me. I can't sit here and tell you the particulars. I mean, I know he was at Texas Tech for a year, and I know he was, but to sit here and tell you I've studied that guy, you know me, I'm not going to lie to you, tell you I've studied somebody. But if Bill Callahan's blessed it, it's good by me.
Yes, sir.
Coach, you always hear this whole thing about going back to J.C. Latham. Oh, right tackle. He played right tackle primarily in college, and you can't switch him over to left primarily. At the NFL level, it just seems to always be a thing. And now that the Titans have drafted him, it's still something that all this outside noise, you hear. What's the most difficult thing about maybe transferring over to that side that Bill Callahan is going to be able to do?
Well, I mean, I watch him in his individual drills, and right now with what's going on, when they do full line individual drills, I know I'm not giving a lot of things away, but he works those guys both in left and right-handed stances, and I'll just leave it at that. Everybody.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I like it. Coach Tate McGinnis with us Thursdays, making us smarter every week here on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. Coach Mack, again, a job well done, as always, with draft coverage. Enjoyed it and appreciate the time as always.
Guys, it's always a pleasure. Appreciate you guys. See you.
See you, Coach.
There's Coach Mack with us here this morning on the show as we get our first post-draft visit.
Oh, you got to love
Titans Radio's head coach.
He's already getting to work with those linemen.
Yeah, he is. Coach Mack is in that building, man. I'm telling what he's seeing.
I know he's like, I can't tell you a lot, but we got a little.
Hey, Mack is around the way. He around the way type of guy.
Yeah.
All right.
I do think that's interesting, is it does line up with what Rand Carthon said. They don't view tackles as left tackles and right tackles.
Right.
They view everyone being versatile enough to play with their left hand, their right hand, and dropping their right foot back or dropping their left foot back. I think that's interesting.
It is. And that's how we were brought up, too. For the most part, Will, is you just want to get on the field.
You were also in an offense at Tennessee for 1 year that would switch tackles mid-drive.
That's the only bit of credit I'll give him. You know that.
No, actually, y'all would literally, for people that don't know, Dave Clawson, now the head coach at Wake Forest, when he was at Tennessee as the offensive coordinator in 2008, the left tackle and right tackle would literally flop, and they would switch positions mid-drive.
Strong and quick. Strong side, quick side. And to be fair, it was a college that did it really well. Bobby Petrino, whenever they went to the Orange Bowl at Louisville, they were flip-flopping sides also. And the only reason I was open to doing it was because my brother played on those teams, Renardo, and they were flip-flopping sides and stuff.
It was
I know.
interesting.
I ain't going to say that's the only credit I give Clawson. Apparently, he's a nice dude. So I'm going to ease.
There it is. He's a nice guy.
Coach Foreman asked me to ease up off of him. So I'm going to stop being petty.
615-737-1045 is our number. Coming up, the NFL does not care about other leagues and their holidays. And there's one writer that is hypothesizing whether or not the NFL will end a 23-year drought and take back another holiday. We'll dive into that next.
It's Ramon Foster for Artisan Custom Closets. Here to tell you, man, it's time to make your home into an oasis of calm, right? That should be your safe place at all times. And that means getting some of that clutter out, okay? And do that before the summer hits with Artisan Custom Closets. With custom store solutions that are made to suit you, your style, and your budget. Yes, they consider the budget just because they know you will also. So you can get that clutter organized and out of the way. Artisan Custom Closets can help you get organized in any space in your home, from your walk-in closets to pantries, garages, or laundry rooms. Start with their free in-house design consultation, and take advantage of their multiple financing options. I need to get some clutter out of my mind as I get my words together, okay? But schedule your consultation now at artisancustomclosets.com.
The phrase NFL is king, certainly true in television ratings, true in the way that we format radio shows. It's also true in terms of holidays. It's Ramon, Kalen, Will, RKW, brewed by 8th and Rose, 615-737-1045. Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk yesterday, asks, should the NFL consider taking back Labor Day? So 23 years ago, the NFL said no more Labor Day football, NFL. A weekend that belongs to barbecuing, to lakes, to college football. And the league explained in its announcement August 30th, 2000, people want to stretch those last lazy days of summer. That is why the NFL has decided that September 3rd and 4th will be the last time in 2000 that it opens the season on Labor Day weekend. Beginning in 2001, fans will be able to enjoy the unofficial, quote, end of summer and then kick off fall with the opening of the NFL season on the weekend after Labor Day. But now with so many more ways to consume NFL football, and with the idea of an 18-game schedule, do you see the NFL taking back Labor Day anytime soon?
If they decide to go to more games, yes. Because then they could just say, okay, we'll go back to doing Labor Day, right? And add that, what would it be, 18th game, I guess?
Yep.
I could see that being the case because I don't think they care about going up against college football and letting them have that weekend by themselves. They're going to be like, okay, yeah, college football, cool. You had that for 10 years or whatever, and we're back in charge here. I personally don't want to see it. I actually like having just college football that weekend to focus on, and then getting kind of the butterflies and giddiness of the NFL season starting right after that. But I do see, and with Goodell saying at the draft this past last week, telling Pat McAfee and them that this could be something in the future to expand the schedule, I could see them adding that weekend as week 1.
I don't want it. And it's probably just for me. It's only me. As I'm telling you right now, I do enjoy the marking of the last week of summer being Labor Day. And, hey, we got college football Monday nights and all those types of things and stuff like that. I enjoy the gap. I do. The NFL, I think, should probably expand it out for the next year. Like I said, having the Super Bowl be on President's Day weekend, I think that's probably one of the best decisions that can possibly be made. If they go to that. Starting it earlier to me doesn't help out the players. It doesn't help you get set for the continuation of the season because, again, we always have that 8 to 10-day gap to where, okay,
that's right.
Rosters cut, guys are in the building. Okay, we can settle in. For the young fellas that's just now made the team, go find your apartment. For the ones that need a vehicle, go get your car. And all this can be done in like a day or two. But there is a grace period that has to be considered. And NFL, to me, shouldn't infringe upon that gap week where teams can somewhat set themselves up as people more than any doggone thing. So, and not just the fans. I'm talking about the actual players. Like finding a townhome as a undrafted rookie in 2009, like that was something I needed to do and had to do within like a week. Then I had to go get furniture. Then I had to find a vehicle. Then there was a lot of other things that go into it. So if they consider the players, which they usually do not, I'd much rather have it later than to start it earlier.
Yeah.
So the federal prohibition on NFL games being played on Fridays does not start until the second Friday in September, until the second Saturday in December. I don't know how many people know this, that the Sports Broadcasting Act of 1961 is literally what prevents the NFL from taking Fridays and Saturdays in order to protect high school football and college football.
That's real.
So there is literally a federal prohibition on the NFL playing on Fridays and Saturdays, but that does not start until the second weekend in September. So that is why the Eagles can go to Brazil and play September 6th this year, because of a calendar quirk that has Labor Day being a little bit later in September. College football starts August 29th this year instead of that little bit later date in September. So it allows the NFL to do that. I am all for this. I cannot believe I'm the only one that's all for this as well, because you would get 5 standalone games. What you would get is on Labor Day weekend, Thursday night NFL football, Friday night NFL football, Saturday afternoon and Saturday night NFL football, and then a full Sunday slate. More football is always better than less football. And there are so many cupcake week 1 games at neutral sites now in college football that the shine of week one college football has worn off. Too many directional schools versus big schools, and too many neutral site games between SEC and Big Ten teams and teams they know they're going to beat. The fact that Alabama-Duke was a game that happened in week one. It's not good. Like, half of these games are over by halftime. And the best college football games are going to find a way to work around this and be in different areas of that weekend. I think it's going to happen. I think I am all for it. And I think all of you are going to love it.
I didn't say I wouldn't love it. What I said was I didn't want it earlier.
Well, you should want what you love.
I'll take more, but you got to give it to me later. Pause.
Okay. All right. Well, anyway. Apparently part of this, too, Mike Florio wrote, was the fact that people are away from their televisions, grilling, laking, beaching.
They'll find a way.
23 years ago, that was the point, is that in 2000, you're doing Labor Day things, you're not by a TV. Well, now you don't have to have a TV to watch NFL football. Take NFL Plus with you.
I mean, you can go on Old Hickory, right? Or Percy Priest. I'm not.
I mean,
going
some of
on
these
Percy
boats
Priest
have TVs.
ever. I'm not ever.
Are y'all lake people?
No.
Do you like the lake?
Yeah, I grew up around a lake, so I'm a lake person.
You know why I don't like the lake?
Why is that?
Because I get alerts to my phone about accidents happening in it all the time.
Are you
Every
talking
person I
about that
know
one
that
in
go to
Georgia?
the lake tells me, no, I'm talking about the one
boating
here.
accidents.
Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah,
like
they
man-made
just
lakes have a
fished
lot
out
of
somebody
accidents.
recently. Yeah,
don't know
everybody
why it
I know
is.
that go to the lakes like, don't go to the lake. I'm like, really?
I don't go to the lakes here.
Yeah,
The lakes? What's wrong with the lakes here?
that's just what I've been told.
Oh, a lot of
That's
lake
what I've
hate
been
this
told.
morning.
I can't give you a real answer. It's just what I've been told. Yeah, you
Party
don't wanna go to
Cove
the
is a
lake.
good time.
Well, see, that sounds like a problem to me.
Sounds like Lake Havasu.
Sounds like a problem to
Party
me,
Cove over
Will.
If you're picking a vacation between beach, lake, or mountains.
Beach. All day.
Beach now. When I was playing mountains, again, all of my decisions now is because I don't have to be outside all day.
Yeah.
I would have said mountains 5 years ago, but I'll say beach now.
Yeah.
Okay. I just think it's the most relaxing.
Take a beach trip this summer.
Robert Walsh, beach, lake, or mountains?
Why not both?
Yeah,
or all three?
Porque no los tres.
You can do
Do that in California.
you can do it in
some places.
Hawaii.
North Carolina's not bad too. 2 hours to the mountains, 3 hours
Oh.
to the beach.
It's a good point.
I am a lake guy though. I like
Are you?
the rivers and streams that I'm used to. I know
Here he
all of
goes.
the fish and creatures that will be in a lake. There's not going to be a shark. There's not going to be a megalodon, a giant squid, anything to grab my toes.
That is fair.
And in the mountains, there are bears, there are mountain lions,
Snakes.
and there are way too many wineries. And I cannot take Cheyenne wine drunk.
No?
Why not?
Wow.
What happens when she drinks too much wine?
We don't get anything done. We should not even leave the house. We just,
Okay.
I hope that's where she asked the honeymoon to be, is in Napa Valley.
Who drinks
gotta
wine?
get a
and-
ring first.
Who drinks wine and tries to get things done?
into
No, like
existence.
who drinks wine and is productive though?
goodness.
well, I'm telling you, she'll drink
Great
some wine, and
question.
she's definitely trying to get some things done.
Oh. Woo.
Noted waterfall chaser Robert Walsh, ladies and gentlemen. Weekdays
Go.
from 6 to 10 on remote Kayla and Will. 615-737-1045. Tyler Boyd visiting with the Titans. There is a key reason and report out there why one team linked to him doesn't want him. We'll get to that next. Plus, we got Preds playoff tickets. If you're interested in going to Game 6 in Bridgestone Arena, we've got your chance to win next.
Hey, it's Kayla Anderson and Ramon Foster for Window Nation. And it is Window Nation's semi-annual sale. That is right. 50% off all window styles, plus 0 interest for 5 years, and an additional bonus if you schedule an appointment this week. And of course, we're in May, so it's throughout the month.
No doubt about it. And here's the thing, too. Weather impacts your windows, okay? Whether it's hot outside and the sun's beaming and beating it down, or cold nights to where it's causing your caulk to crack, okay? Seal failures, condensation, all kind of issues. You'll see them, okay? Don't act like you don't. And I promise you this, if you change your windows to Window Nation, you will see the effects of it, too, with better pricing on your light and just on your light bill and everything involved in it. Again, all Window Nation does is windows. They've installed over 200,000 windows last year. As Kayla just told you, 0 interest financing for 5 years, man. You can't not beat that. Call them at 866-90-NATION or go online at windownation.com.
What's going on? 8 o'clock. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. Titans bringing in a ghost to Callahan's past as former Bengals wide receiver Tyler Boyd schedules some visits. Visited the Chargers earlier in the week. Tyler Boyd is apparently in Nashville as we speak. Boyd, who turns 30 in November, started 13 games for Cincinnati last year, catching 67 balls for 667 yards and catching 2 touchdowns. NBA playoffs last night, Mavs dominated the Kawhi Leonard-less Clippers 123-93, taking the series to 3-2 Mavs as the Game 6 heads back to Dallas. While the Mavs are headed back to Dallas, the Heat are headed back home after losing Game 5 to Boston 118-84, a 34-point loss. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Second half of the show and hour number 3 starts right now on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. 615-737-1045 and streaming live on 104.5 The Zone TV, Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch.
Please.
We'll tell you the latest on the Tennessee Titans courtship of now former Bengals wide receiver Tyler Boyd. But right now, we have got your chance to head to Game 6 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Goodness sakes.
That thing scares me every time.
Playoff time in Smashville. The Nashville Predators are coming back home for Game 6 in round 1 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. We have your chance to win tickets right now. Call in 615-737-1045, and caller number 5 gets 2 tickets to Game 6, Predators and Canucks. 615-737-1045. You can join Smashville and Bridgestone Arena, a 6 p.m. puck drop.
Yeah.
We are told tomorrow night. So
That's a big dub.
puck drop as soon as the mics go hot for Rand Carthon, Greg Cosell, and Buck Rising for the install live at the Hutton Hotel.
A lot going on this weekend, right? And we've got the Morgan Wallen concert that's going to extend into the weekend. So, yeah.
It's all the way through the weekend?
Pick your poison.
Okay. All right. Yeah, well,
Or do it all. Some people might want to do it all.
Yeah, depending on how much the rain stays away, too.
True.
So there's a little bit of that.
Some weather this weekend, yeah.
I feel like a good rain concert is fun sometimes.
Will a rain concert?
Yeah, as long as it's not downpour.
Never did that before.
I don't know. I haven't either, but I just feel like it'd be fun.
It might be.
Take a poncho and enjoy it.
Make a mosh pit out of it. How about that?
Sure.
Right.
Yeah,
I
like
that.
Woodstock.
I'm not going to be in there. I just want to see a mosh pit.
As long as there are no chairs in that mosh pit for the Morgan Wallen
That could
show.
get wild.
615-737-1045. Looks like Robert Walsh close to getting a winner. So there you go. Somebody heading to Bridgestone Arena tomorrow night. Tyler Boyd visiting with the Titans. Jeremy Fowler with the report that he is here. He also posted on his Instagram story a picture of a hotel lobby or some kind of bar lobby, something with Nashville, Tennessee on it. There is a report out there from multiple places about why the Pittsburgh Steelers are not interested in Tyler Boyd. This was from a few weeks ago. The Athletic with a report that supports a Post-Gazette story, another one on 93.7 The Fan in Pittsburgh that says money is the issue for the Steelers, who struggled with the idea of paying a number 3 receiver $8 to $9 million per season. Is that too rich of a price for the Titans, number 3 receiver?
For here, I don't think so. I think you want to bargain. I think in Pittsburgh that 8 to 9 probably turned to 7.5 here because of taxes. That's just me putting it together how we need to. But I don't think it's too rich with what he's going to have for you as far as his ability to make plays for you. If you're looking for a team that needs playmakers and trying to stay relevant, I don't know if Pittsburgh's needs is there as strong, simply because now they went in and cashed in on Roman Wilson. So you have that situation right there. And then you also at a spot to where you got a lot of one year deals going on. You got Russ You got Justin. You got to figure out if George Pickens is going to be your guy. And to bring in a number 3 guy for that price point, considering there are certain dudes that you're going to have to pay after this year, can be somewhat problematic for a team like that. You're looking at the Titans situation where you got Levis that's trying to be established here. You got this new emergence of a new head coach that's trying to make sure he implements and becomes successful here as early and as quick as he possibly can. That's why I think it makes more sense for a guy like Tyler Boyd to be signed here as opposed to Pittsburgh, to where it's a bunch of 1 years and what ifs surrounding what's going to happen next year with the young talent that they have there.
Yeah, and the Titans have the money. Like we've said, they have the money to maybe pay him a little bit more. And again, you're given that number of 8 or so?
8 to 9 million was the original report out of Pittsburgh.
And this is a thing with Tyler Boyd, especially with him being 29 years old. I'd be interested to see what he's asking for deal-wise, too, because I would give him like a 2-year deal. I think that's fair. I don't know if you guys think different, but with him being 29 already, I don't know if I'd give him longer than that.
I'm out on the age thing moving forward, I feel like. Even for offensive linemen, until a guy shows me he's beaten and broken down when he's 30-plus years old, and the guys that you've either signed here or gotten here or in other places have still somewhat crushed it. D-Hop, to me, is the biggest testament of it all when it comes down.
But you've got 3 of them that are 29 and above. That's my.
I'm with that, but Calvin Ridley showed no sign of slowing down, had a year off.
Right.
You look at his situation as being super unique. And again, the differences between how we, in my opinion, have judged these guys as far as football goes, it has been a lot of old judgment to where, all right, now we got to believe that the running back isn't important when you still see teams that put a strong emphasis on running backs, right? Mm-hmm. We're talking about the middle linebacker isn't important anymore when there's a strong emphasis on having a guy that can go sideline to sideline. In the same way, we try to make a strong emphasis on players turning 30 years old, except for the quarterback position, I think it should be somewhat slanted the exact same way for other positions like linebacker, for other positions like wide receiver, other positions like offensive lineman. We're saying Bobby Wagner right now. How old is Bobby Wagner? He still just got another deal, I think, with the Washington Commanders. And then on top of that, he leaves Seattle, go to the Rams, come right back to Seattle, and have a really good season. That right there, to me, is a lot of public perception and ways to knock guys as far as the overall pay.
Yeah, I'm not knocking him because of his age in terms of not signing him. Mine's just in terms of the longevity of the deal.
Oh, yeah.
I think you send him to a 2 max deal, sign him to a 2 max, and I think that's fair, right? Because Callahan knows his player, too. The 1-year deal could be a thing, prove it kind of thing, but I think because Callahan knows what he's getting out of Tyler Boyd, I think a 2-year would probably be maybe what he'd be okay with.
1 year with an option so you can, lower the cap number and spread the money over. Definitely, absolutely.
TJ in the F&M Bank chat on Facebook Live says 67 catches for 600 yards and 2 touchdowns. I would rather roll with Traylon and Kyle, obviously hoping they stay healthy. If you want a depth guy at wide receiver, just sign Zay Jones.
I don't like the Zay Jones thing.
Why not?
I just think that when you look overall at Tyler Boyd's production and his availability and his connection to Callahan, that sets him best up in this system. And I think you could look at that as being a seamless transition, whereas I don't think Zay's been as productive or as consistent and available.
There's ties on both ends because you got Coach Holtz, too, coming from Jacksonville.
Right, that's true.
Not to correlate one to the other, but there's a lot of ties. Golly, how deep is his staff when it comes to connections?
It's deep.
Yeah.
Zay Jones, for perspective, last season, only 321 yards, 34 catches, started 7 games, played 9 for the Jags. 2 years ago, he had more yards than Tyler Boyd, but that was really his only big season of 800-plus yard production in the NFL. He had 82 catches for 823 yards and 5 touchdowns in 2022. As far as other options go, DJ Chark is the other wide receiver who is out there available. And going into his age 28 season, the Louisiana native, who last year for Carolina had 525 yards. Those are the kind of players you're still shopping for out there if you're looking to add a wide receiver.
It is. And my thing, too, is you get a guy that you know is going to extend the sticks for you in Tyler Boyd. Again, he goes up and get it, will climb the ladder and go get a play for you. He's a matchup nightmare to linebackers, to corners, nickel corners, and just to the middle of the defense where you say, all right, we got 1 and 2 covered. And next thing you know, you got a Tyler Boyd right there in your lap with a first down. And not only just that, his ability to be used in sweeps, it really is. How, if you look at his career, the way Tyler Boyd is, he was a second-round draft pick, cool. If you look at his career and how he's played ball with guys around him and how he's just always been available, this was, to me, somewhat now the expectation for Traylon moving forward.
Mm-hmm. And I can wait till after the break to say this because I know we're going to talk a little bit more about him, but just in some insight from Cincinnati on that particular thing, I have a little bit to say about that.
Okay, for sure. I like the idea that he can be here because, again, he's quarterback friendly. And I know we're saying, all right, the use of the tight ends and Chig and stuff like that, but be able to have a guy that can really separate himself and sure-handed when it comes down to his catching abilities and also just being familiar with what the expectation of this offense is. Mm-hmm. He's a dude that settled in as a 3. You got Calvin, you got D-Hop, and then it's a fight for number 3 in reps at that point right there.
And I like that battle. I like having the kind of room filled with these guys that are going to test each other and test Traylon and test Kyle Phillips. Because worst things worse, Tyler Boyd wins, right? And if he doesn't, you're getting what you expect to get out of Traylon.
You get the best out of him. Competition is a beautiful thing, man. And as somebody that's gone through it numerous times, feelings are out the window. Perception is out the window. Where you was drafted is out the window. Either you are good enough or you're not. And that's where it becomes a turning point for Traylon Burks. Burks, that is.
How many problems would Tyler Boyd solve on the Titans offense? What do you like the most about him? 615-737-1045. And what would his addition mean for current wide receivers on the Titans roster? That's next. RKW rolls on in hour number 3 on 104.5 The Zone, and there's a chance that the Titans' newest wide receiver target could be listening to this station right now. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling, Robert Walsh is our producer. Tyler Boyd in town, as per his Instagram yesterday. ESPN's Jeremy Fowler writing on Twitter that he visited with the Chargers, and now he visits with the Tennessee Titans. What would Tyler Boyd do for this offense? How many problems that this offense currently has would he solve?
Down the field. Down the field, down the middle of the field offense, man. He's a guy that's a gadget, but a playmaker in the same sense. So this is what I had to say about him earlier, and just watching tape and just seeing him evolve as a player too. One, he can play because you look at his track record. He's had 1,000-yard seasons and stuff like that. It's just like they drafted better talent around him. It settles your number 1 and your number 2 also, but also gives you ability to be better. If D-Hop is out for a game, if Calvin is out for a game, you have a guy that's been proven in this league too. But here's the thing that I've had to say about him too. And Bert, I know you were in the division and saw him 2 times a year also, and just watching him cook. You're the guy that's overly confident in how he goes about his job, but not just that. He's a middle of the field technician. And I don't think you understand how big that is for an offense, how Brian Callahan has called it in Cincinnati, or helped call it in Cincinnati, helped set it up in Cincinnati to where they do play the sideline a good bit. Jamar Chase goes to the sideline. T. Higgins, they play the sideline too. And then you got to have somebody that's good enough over the middle with good enough hands and playmaking ability. That's him. I said he is one of the main reasons why nickel cornerbacks have emerged in this league. Because he's so much of a linebacker mismatch that you have to employ a guy that can actually cover him, put him on the field in situations where he's out there, especially if they're moving him around or putting him in the slot. That's where he dwells at. As I said, a middle of field technician can separate with ease. You see that. Is he super fast? No, he reminds you somewhat of a taller, slender Anquan Bolden. He's just one of those guys that just gets open. And another cool thing about him, too, is he protects himself when he get caught. If the play's over with, he's going down. Now, he will throw himself out there and sacrifice to make catches down the middle. You'll see that being the case. But he's not the fastest. Don't expect speed out of him. Expect playmaking ability out of him. If you need a first down, we're going 2nd and 7. He's good enough to press the DB to where he can separate and get that 8-yard out for the first down. That's the type of guy he is. If you're running end arounds, you see him being in and out of the offense, getting end arounds, screen guy. He's good at that. He is really good. If you watch his tape, I ain't gonna say really good. He's fairly good at diagnosing how to get open behind the big boys up front in the screen. That's something that he does really well for his offense. And the other thing is this. He will climb the ladder and bring in the ball. He is super unique, and I think he's about 6'2", but he got arms as long as an elephant nose, man. Like, that's an elephant trunk. Like, that's how long his arms are when you look at how he goes up and snatches balls out of the air. I remember one time in Pittsburgh, we had I think it was one of those years either somebody was heard that he was somewhat a premier guy in our offense, and it was one of those conversations, don't get beat to the flats. And you know who we had on him? We had a linebacker. And when we had a linebacker on him, guess what happens? They got beat to the flat. It was that simple. Coach was like, you're a bridge builder. This is what you do. I told you don't get beat to the flat. He's not that fast, but he's fast enough to get open. He's one of those dudes on tape you're going to see him consistently getting hawked down. He's a 4.5, probably slower now than he was when he first came into the league. But for the most part, you call him up because he's always open and he's always going to make a play for you. I like the idea of him being in this offense, probably better than seeing him with the Chargers, because I think they need a bigger playmaker out there with the Chargers. His situation here is he will fit in, know his role around a bunch of other veteran guys, and will challenge the young guys behind him, whether that be Traylon, whether that be Kyle Phillips, whether that be whoever else that they have in the role. But what you do know is you will have a 1, you will have a 2, and you will have a 3, on top of having 2 very, very solid running backs with the offensive line that's somewhat building up. You know, remember when we all had this conversation about protection? How do you protect Will Levis? How do you develop to where he's productive? Tyler Boyd, to me, is one of those answers. Why? Because if you can't get the ball out, guess what you always have at all times? Somebody that can get open close to the line of scrimmage, and that's where a guy like Tyler Boyd, to me, plays a crucial part into helping his team stop the amount of sacks that they have and also move the sticks.
Yeah, when I looked at his numbers over the past 3 seasons, there's no doubt there's been some digression from 2020 to 2023. However, you do have to look at the situation, like I mentioned earlier in one of the segments, about Joe Burrow not primarily playing the entire season, and that does change up an offense a little bit. And so when you look at his overall production, even if it's declining a bit, I'm still going to sign up for that any day because it's not drastic enough for me to be like, oh my gosh, he's going to fall off the face of the earth. Now, when I reached out to somebody in the Cincinnati market who has covered this team for a while, the one thing that I loved that I heard and that kind of goes off of your point is this guy is the ultimate pro. I'm talking like taught T. Higgins and Jamar Chase how to be pros when they arrived there. I mean, Callahan loves this guy. And if Callahan feels like he still has the juice left in him, which obviously does if he's bringing him in for a visit, then I see him coming here because for Boyd's benefit, he's going to still be able to play his best ball here. Heck, I could even see him, going over the numbers that he did last year, possibly knowing that, hey, you are that third guy if you do win that job, which I think he would. And it solves your slot issue, which, by the way, earlier, in this preseason, this offseason, you heard Brian Callahan kind of say, here's a couple of guys that we could see play slot, which was NWI and Kyle Phillips, both guys who are, like NWI is good. He's been solid, but I don't really necessarily want him to be my number 3. And Kyle Phillips has just been too inconsistent. I don't know what I'm going to get out of him. Why not bring in a guy that you know exactly what you're going to get? He is somebody you can count on. And to your point, you were saying, like, he's always there to make the play, right? If he needs to. I thought this was great. He boasts an exceptional 68% catch rate, dropped just 10 passes over the last 4 seasons. Oh, wow. So clearly a guy you can count on. Why not bring him in, say, okay, we checked off that slot position, and if somebody goes out, you can move him out if you need to. But what does that all mean? That means everything you're doing to set up Levis for success this season. You're giving him weapons that will be able to do their jobs and do it consistently and do it well. And then what they decide to do in the future, that's fine. These aren't like long-term answers, but for this offense right now to set Levis up for success, that's huge. You got 3 guys that know what they're doing.
If the Titans signed Tyler Boyd, what does that say about how they feel regarding Treylon Burks and Kyle Phillips?
I don't think it says anything.
Why not?
I personally do not. Because the more weapons you can have, the better, number one. But 2, to me, it says this. When you look at, all right, you mentioned them, NWI respectfully, Treylon Burks respectfully, and Kyle Phillips. Which one of those guys actually scare you on game day? I know for a fact this team is trying to win right now. Like, be competitive, not be picking in the top 10. Change the perception of what this squad is viewed as, right? I think the Titans had a very solid draft. But why are some people saying it's a D or some people saying it's a B- or a C? Not that it matters, because, again, the results of the field of those draft picks, that's to be determined down the line. But it's because you're the Titans. And you got to change that profile on how you're viewed and what the expectations are in playing in the AFC South. To me, if it changes absolutely nothing about anything that has to do with Treylon or anything that has to do with Kyle or NWI. You got to get as many weapons possible as you can to compete right now. And the conversations I've had around this squad is don't be surprised if they grab a playoff spot. So when you ask me what does it change, it makes you competitive. It doesn't affect anybody because either you get with it in professional sports or you get rolled over. Heck, we're even seeing that now in the collegiate level. Either you get with it within 1 or 2 years or you get rolled over. This is just the way it's got to be moving forward. The coddling of player days, I hope for the sake of competing and being better and always pushing the line, is over. I don't care if you were drafted here and, hey, we got to see what it looks like. I believe there's a lot left in Traylon. I'm with Ron on this one. I think there's a lot that's there on the table that he's just got to snatch and stay healthy enough for us to be able to see it. We've seen spurts of it. But the consistency of it is why you bring in another guy like Tyler Boyd. If Traylon had somewhat of a if Traylon had 600 yards last year, are we possibly having this conversation if he played all 17 games also? No. So because of that, let me go with a known commodity to bring him in to possibly, to your point, Kayla, show him how to be the pro, which D-Hop has already done. Again, his issues ain't that he can't play. His issues is that he can't stay healthy and on the field. And that may be not to his own undoing. It's because he's got a bad concussion. He was going to make a play in Minneapolis, and that fell apart for him. He did everything you needed him to do last year.
Except catch some deep passes.
There were some
on the drop
drops.
he had against the Texans on the beginning of the game where the ball's in the breadbasket and he just drops it.
So when it comes down to those situations right there, though, too, think about this. And I know we got callers on the line. Is this?
And I want to add something real quick after that.
Think about this. When Traylon's in a funk or D-Hop's in a funk or getting double teamed, who do you go to after that? That's why you bring in another weapon.
So I think it changes it in a little way, but in a good way for those that are on the outskirts, like a Traylon Burks, like a Kyle Phillips. For the first time in a long time, guys, you're bringing real competition to that room. You're bringing competition from whether they're starters and they're known starters. That's competition. That's guys that are out there in practice. That's guys that are out there in training camp that are going to make you better if you're a Traylon Burks, if you're a Kyle Phillips. They haven't had that in the last several years here. That competition has not been there at wide receiver. And go back and read all the numbers from the past few years of who led that room. I mean, we went back to Robert Woods one year, leading the room with like 500 yards. That's not good competition in that room. So if anything, I think they're going to give these guys a chance because they're young, especially Traylon Burks, to be pros, to stay on this team. And they're going to do it by bringing in these types of players. And we don't know Tyler Boyd, if he signs, it might be a 1-year deal. It might be a 2-year deal. DeAndre Hopkins is on the last year of his deal. We don't know if he's going to be re-signed here. There's opportunities for Traylon to be a part of this team moving forward. And he is going to now have real competition in that room.
615-737-1045. Alan is in Murfreesboro up first. What's up, Alan?
Well, hello and good morning. Just wanted to say I just relocated here 2 weeks ago, but I've been listening to you since December in Las Vegas online. I love you guys, 104.5 The Zone, and appreciate the sports talk.
Thank you, Alan.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Alan.
it. Welcome.
28 years in Vegas, but born and raised in Cincinnati, so I've been following the Bengals, obviously, and certainly wanted to weigh in on Tyler Boyd. I think everybody's spot on this morning. I mean, if you get him, he's reliable. He'll be there, and you got to be available, and he'll be there. And I think he's sure-handed, and just like everybody was saying this morning, he runs his routes well. I mean, he's a pro. He's a pro's pro. He understands the game, and I think that's going to be a valuable weapon for the team. So I'm excited for it if it happens for us here.
Love it.
No doubt.
That's
Appreciate
awesome,
it, Alan.
Alan.
And welcome to Nashville.
Welcome to Nashville.
You have good taste in sports talk.
By way of Vegas or by way of Cincinnati? That's what I should have asked.
I think he lived in Vegas for 20-something
Sound
years.
like Vegas. Okay, but a Bengals fan. Huh.
So Vegas to Nash Vegas. Okay.
Nice.
Love it.
Danny in the Borough, our resident Bengals fan, one of our favorites. What's up, Danny?
What's up, fam?
Hey,
I haven't
Danny,
talked to
what's
you guys
going
in a
on?
while. I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in here.
Sure.
The previous caller, Mr. Vegas, welcome to Nashville. We love having you already, bud. We need all the Bengals fans we can get around here.
All right, easy.
I love it.
I think that the most accurate thing y'all have said was Miss Kayla when she said that this is a lunch pail pros pro receiver in Tyler Boyd. It was a pleasure watching him play for as long as he was in Cincinnati. I think it's worth noting that he cut his teeth working with the likes of A.J. Green, right? I mean, like you can really see a lot of A.J. Green's game and what Tyler Boyd does, especially because we nicknamed him the third down technician in Cincinnati. If you watch the tape from the last few years, nobody in a Bengals uniform has gotten more third downs from a third down play than Tyler Boyd. And if you watch the man's eyes when he's playing, it's crazy because the first thing he does is look to get to his spot. Then you'll actually see him adjust. He'll look to the sideline for the first down marker, and he'll bully the corner or whoever's covering to get out of his way so he can get back behind that spot. And, the sure-handedness, the no drops, I hate to see him not in Bengal stripes, but, if he has to go anywhere, the Titans are a perfect fit for him. Brian Callahan obviously thinks the world of him, and so do I.
Yeah.
Love
Nice.
it. Thank you,
Very
Danny.
nice.
Always good to hear from you.
It's been a minute.
That's about right. That's what you're getting for him. So, again, if you down one, you got another.
I think for me, it says as much about how you feel about your offensive line in adding someone else who can get open quickly and be the safety net for Will Levis.
Very good point.
That's simple. I think this is a guy that is going to get open quickly, that is going to be there in the middle of the field. And when Ridley and Hopkins have premier corners against them, Tyler Boyd is the guy that you go to. He's always going to be there. He does the job. He's simple in whatever his role is. Bengals last year with Joe Burrow ran more 11 personnel than anyone in the NFL, too. That's one running back, one tight end, 3 receivers.
Nice.
Adding a 4th receiver with legitimate talent, and let's just put Burks there as that 3rd one right now, does not mean they don't love Burks. It means that you're going to run more 3-4 wide receiver sets, and you just need more bodies at wide receiver. There will be times where 4 wide receivers are on the field and Chikakonkwo isn't. There will be times that Chikakonkwo is in the slot. I think everything this team wants to do offensively points towards more spread, more receivers, more passing, and more of a modern offense here. And in order to do that, you need 3 proven commodities. The Pittsburgh Steelers might not have to pay $8 to $9 million because the Steelers aren't running that kind of offense.
Yeah.
Jeremy in Nashville next up on Tyler Boyd. What's up, Jeremy?
Hey, good morning, guys. My opinion is that they're, wanting to bring in Boyd just for that because they need some sort of depth at receiver with some consistency and a proven track record of being able to be sure-handed and make those catches. I mean, what little bit we have been able to see of Burks when he has been healthy, he's dropped. He has kind of drops passes and stuff like that, and I don't agree with. I think they're looking what it would seem like without Burks in the picture because there's been times when they've brought up who's in the slot and they don't even mention his name. So, how confident this coaching staff is and what they've seen out of Burks, they might be preparing for what it might look like without him even in the picture because would you guys agree that, sometimes when these coaches and new staffs come onto teams, they get left with pieces left from the old regime, so to speak, and, they don't really know what to do with them or what they're going to do with them, and they may want to, see what's going to be like moving on without them. That's kind of what I had to say about it, and I'll let you guys speak on it.
No doubt.
Thanks, Jeremy.
There's truth in that, 100%. Well, I go back to your point you made before you took the caller. This is new to us discussing this because this level of offense hasn't been here in a while, right? That's the bigger point.
If you can make the argument, it's never been here.
Wow.
In a lot of ways. I think for playing time, too, Tyler Boyd would be competing with Treylon Burks, but I think those are 2 different slots, right? Treylon Burks is running in-breaking routes. He's running deep passes. He's a deep threat that I think this team wants to use as a physical down-the-field target. Tyler Boyd is more a Kyle Phillips replacement. That's why I think this actually says more about Kyle Phillips than it does Treylon Burks, right?
If we're
Absolutely.
opening the season real quick, who's your 1, 2, and 3 if they do sign Tyler?
Those 3, DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin, and him.
Easy.
Hands down.
Easy.
But imagine this, though. An offense where you can go truly 5 wide.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you could.
Yep.
And then
Yep.
think about this. You can put Tajee out there and motion him into the backfield and
Yes.
still run the ball.
Yes.
Put him and Pollard on the
And
field at the same
Pollard.
time.
That's
I mean,
nasty,
You
man.
got options.
I got chills.
We're getting there.
Okay.
You're getting there.
I got
That's-
chills because
Yeah.
of that.
3 years ago, that offense would have been top 5, nasty of Calvin
Right.
Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins, Tyler Boyd. It's not quite what it was in maybe 2020.
All right.
And you
But it's
still
still
have
pretty good.
Right. And you still have Will that's got to be able to do his job, right?
Your phone calls on Tyler Boyd, 615-737-1045. Your reaction next.
Hey, it's Kayla Anderson with QC Kinetics. It's not the great time of the year if you're dealing with joint pain. You're getting out of bed and already setting you up for a bummer day because you can't go out and do the things that you love to do. Hey, it's Kayla Anderson. And listen, you don't have to go through the summer seasons with missing out on life. You can call QC Kinetics now and find out how they can use biologics from your own body to give new life to those achy joints. QC's regenerative medicine protocols can simply restore and repair that damaged tissue that you're dealing with no surgery, no steroids, no drugs, and no downtime. This is the future of medicine, and that's why it's so exciting, and people think so too. Tens of thousands of QC Kinetics patients around the country are living their best life just because they made the call. And if you're wondering the background of it, well, that's legit too. QC medical professionals are under the direction of Dr. Mitchell Shinecup. He was an orthopedic surgeon who became a true pioneer in regenerative medicine. And boom, here we are offering it to you, not just the athletes out there. So call QC Kinetics for a free consultation, 615-249-4024. That's 615-249-4024.
Tyler Boyd reportedly in town, and your reaction on the phone lines. Here as RKW continues, Ramon, Kayla, and Will, 615-737-1045. ESPN's Matt Miller coming up at 9:20. He'll give his perspective on the Titans draft class, and we'll ask him about Tyler Boyd as well as the Titans continue their offseason. Let's go to Ryan in Lebanon next up on the phones. What's up, Ryan?
Hey, guys. Good morning. How are y'all?
Good morning.
So with the Tyler Boyd thing, what does it do for a guy like Colton Dow? I think he's coming off an ACL tear, but, definitely want to see him on the field, especially in special teams, because I know with the new special teams rule, I think he could really do good for us there. So I just wanted to get your guys' take on the hometown guy, and love the show, guys. Hope y'all have a good Thursday.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate the call. Colton Dowell, what do we think?
It gives him time to get healthy. It will. I think Colton Dowell's role is to continue to be a big-time teamer. When you pick a guy who's a seventh-round draft pick, you see his situation as somebody that's got to evolve into a player. Unless you're given a position like, I ain't going to say given a position, but jump on the scene like Puka Nacua did, right? There's a certain amount of guys that get to that level to where you say, all right, he's got to be a part of our offense. You don't look at you don't look at Colton Dowell right now and say he's got to be a part of this offense. You build a team in a lot of different ways, and dudes like Colton Dowell, if he gets healthy and make it back to training camp, is this: you got to have special teamers, and he proved to be a hot commodity there before the injury happened, and just in situations to where he's got to come in and fill voids, whether it be in a run game or whether it be a screen here or there, giving somebody a breather. Those are those types of players too. Everybody's not a star. Now everybody's not a starter. Sometimes you have very significant role players, and I think Colton Dowell can make a long career out of establishing that first, being a role player, being a big-time teamer on punt return, kickoff coverage, kickoff return, etc., and just being a nice piece in the wide receiver room. There's a multitude of ways to build a team, and that's the way I view Colton Dowell. I don't think it changed much for him if he gets healthy.
I think this is also a guy that, worst comes to worst, he's on the practice squad. And, when they need him, they can bring him up for certain situations. But, yeah, his primary role last year and where we saw him really have some success before he had that injury was special teams. Yeah, it's hard for seventh-round picks, and some break that mold, right? But you're also having a little bit stacked against you too, because this isn't your coach that drafted you. It is the GM, but it's not your coach. So there's a little more stacked against him with the injury and with him being a seventh-round pick. But this is a guy that would fit just in terms of how hard he works and his attitude. I'm sure any team would love to have him as a guy, even on their practice squad, that will be going up against and making your other players better. So,
one note I wanted to make, because obviously if the Titans have more need at wide receiver in a different kind of offense, the question of, would they keep more receivers than they did last year? In asking that question, the Titans actually kept more wide receivers out of training camp last year than the Bengals did, which surprises me a little bit. The Titans kept 7 wide receivers out of camp last year: DeAndre Hopkins, Traylon Burks, Kyle Phillips, Nick Westbrook-Akine, Chris Moore, Colton Dowell, and Kieris Jackson. And the Cincinnati Bengals, meanwhile, kept 6. Tyler Boyd was one of them in his 8th season. They had Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, Trenton Irwin, Jamar Chase, Charlie Jones, and the Princeton rookie Andre Yosevich last year. So,
but wasn't the 7th one due to Traylon being injured and not wanting to put him on PUP? I felt like that was the situation last year.
Maybe.
I think so.
That's true.
To that point.
And then Kieris got hurt.
Kieris
really
did not
quick.
last long. He got hurt quickly. The Bengals kept 4 running backs last year, which is, again, something to monitor as well for the Titans as they rotate more guys in and out. Does that mean that they keep a 4th? We'll see. 615-737-1045. Keith is in Lebanon up next. What's up, Keith?
What's up, guys? How we doing this morning?
Good morning.
Good morning. So I want to talk about that comment earlier about Traylon Burks and those drop passes. He got violently hit. Don't you think after a couple of those you start seeing ghosts? I know this offseason is going to give him a little bit of a chance to set his head right, get back on the right path. So I think he has a breakout season this year, being a third option, maybe a 4th option for Will Levis. What do y'all think?
No doubt. You know what's encouraging, though, y'all, though, is this. Traylon is a hot topic of conversation. Is he not? I think
he's a
first-round pick that they traded away A.J. Brown for.
And my point of that is saying this is I don't think a lot of fans are out. Like, everything we're talking about as it pertains to Traylon ain't negative. It's honestly, I feel like this fan base need for him to show and prove. I don't think it's necessarily negative. I know some folks are like, well, he's going to have a harder time proving it to them. But I think the hope that he can push through and become a dude, I think most people are on that train. It's just that you're hesitant to buy.
Yeah, I think people want to be able to give him the benefit of the doubt, right? Because he was a first-round pick. And you don't just pick people in the first round to fail. And I think that's why they hold on for hope. And I think it's fair because there have been a lot of things that haven't gone in his favor. The luck has not been there, sure. And when you're not on the field enough, you can't build on anything. And so, if anything, the perfect scenario for this year would be you're in a room full of great competition, you've got vets in the room, and you stay healthy and can be somebody who's consistently out there.
Traylon Burks last season had 29 targets and had 4 drops, according to Pro Football Focus. For me, it's less also about being afraid of taking big hits and dropping some passes. It's more about the deep balls that he wasn't even close to catching, right? At 6'2", 225. There was a throw, specifically against Pittsburgh. I know that's the game he got hurt in, but before that, he is a deep threat wide receiver who is not a threat at all when the ball is in the air. It's maybe less about the drops and more about the ones he doesn't even get his hands on to drop.
Yeah.
That's where this staff has got to work with him and say, dude, you're a powered forward trying to be as finesse as a shooting guard. Like, you're bigger than a lot of these defensive backs. Act like it. 615-737-1045. There is a report out on Tyler Boyd just from about 5 minutes ago from someone who has been on this show before, in national NFL reporter Adam Kaplan. He gives his take and a little bit of info on Tyler Boyd and the Titans' pursuit of him that we will tell you about coming up next. Hey, it's Will Bowling. Storms and changing weather can cause all sorts of chaos, including power outages. Have you considered what would happen if your home had no power right now? Well, I'm here to tell you, a home generator, it makes a huge difference. That power goes out, home generator, it's going to take care of you. Your heating and air conditioning system is going to stay running. The lights are going to be on. The appliances will continue working. You can also count on your phones and computers. They're going to stay charged. You're not going to miss a beat. And if there's severe weather in the area, you're going to have the latest information about where you need to be, what's going on. You got to act now, and you're going to get $500 off from Lee Company or special financing for up to 36 months on a new generator for your home. You just got to go to leecompany.com/promotions or give them a call. Remember this phone number, 615-567-1000 for your heating, cooling, your plumbing. Lee Company, they take care of everything for you, and you got to take advantage of this great offer on a home generator as well. You heard that right. $500 off right now or special financing for up to 36 months at a new generator for your home. Online at leecompany.com. Lee Company, all you need.
What's going on? 9:01. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone studios. I am Robert Walsh. Titans bringing in the ghost to Callahan's past, former wide receiver for the Bengals. Tyler Boyd scheduled some visits, visiting the Chargers earlier this week. Boyd is apparently in Nashville as we speak. He'll turn 30 in November. Started 13 games for Cincinnati last year, catching 67 balls for 667 yards and 2 touchdowns. Also in the NFL, today is the final day to attribute fifth-year options. Some of the biggest decisions left to make, the Colts with Kwity Paye and the Steelers with Najee Harris. Both of those have a deadline today. The NBA playoffs, Mavs dominated the Kawhi Leonard-less Clippers, 123-93, taking the series to 3-2 Mavs as the Game 6 heads back to Dallas. While the Mavs are going back to Dallas, the Heat are going home after losing Game 5 to Boston, 118-84, a loss by 34 points. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Fourth and final hour of the show, 9 a.m. in Nashville, as we begin the fourth quarter on the show that plays its best ball in the fourth quarter. Ramon, Kayla, and Will, 615-737-1045. How you join the Tyler Boyd discussion this morning with the former Pittsburgh Panther and Cincinnati Bengal, 8-year NFL vet, in town today, meeting with the Titans. Matt Miller of ESPN talks a little bit of NFL draft, Titans draft, and a little bit of Tyler Boyd as well, coming up with us here in just about 15 minutes. Adam Kaplan has weighed in at Kaplan NFL insider and columnist for the Pro Football Network, heard on Fox Sports Radio and Sirius XM 8 minutes ago in a quote tweet of A to Z Sports Nashville, our friends and partners here at The Zone. Quote, Titans had interest in pursuing Tyler Boyd before the draft as their slot wide receiver, but they and other teams were under the impression he wanted to wait until after the draft to sign. What's your reaction to that?
Makes sense. Because where does he want to go that sets himself up the best for the remaining of his career, or whether it be 1 year or whatever? The best thing for him would be to wait to see what teams do in the draft in terms of what did they draft? Do they get wide receivers? Are those wide receivers going to play right away? How will that affect my time? And so then I still feel like the Titans are the best place now that even we see that for him to come in and play.
Yeah. And again, to your point, it comes down to figuring out where his catches are going to come from. Who's running the offense? How are they actually building it up? And how does it pertain to him justifying the pay he's going to ask for versus production he can say, I'm going to give to you? It does. And veteran dudes don't have to be in a rush to sign either. There's always money to be spent for teams that want to compete. So it's going to be super unique to me watching how this unfolds with Tyler Boyd, because here's the thing. If there's a connection already with Coach Brian Callahan and familiarity with the offense. And then you also we've heard Callahan brag about Rand's relationships and how he can close. Mm-hmm. I can't see a situation where Tyler Boyd leaves Nashville without a contract. Who's he left with? If Pittsburgh's already said, no, here's the thing, played at Pitt. I think he's from Penn Hills.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah,
he grew up 30 minutes away from the artist formerly known as Heinz Field.
Yeah.
LA's still interested, but, that's a long ways away.
How much are they willing to give?
Yeah.
How much are they willing to give, and
absolutely.
what type of offense are they trying to run? Looking at your supporting cast matters. I think in this era, we've watched how recruiting somewhat has unfolded. I will go if it helps me out. Yeah. I would go to where there's a bunch of 4 and 5 stars too.
Titans are the only team in the mix for Tyler Boyd that did not draft a wide receiver with one of its first few selections. So the New York Jets, who have been interested, they draft WKU's Malachi Corley. The Los Angeles Chargers, they still have a lot of need at wide receiver, but they brought in Ladd McConkey out of Georgia. The Kansas City Chiefs, another team that has been in the mix for Tyler Boyd, they bring in Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown, mind you, in that as well, which you feel like would take them out. And then Pittsburgh brings in Roman Wilson, while also signing Quez Watkins and Van Jefferson.
The Titans had the most money, right, too? I mean,
I'm not sure if they have the most. I know they got more
close
than
to it.
I think any of these teams, though, I don't think it matters because I think anyone could make a deal for $8 million a season work if they really want to, right? Like you can move around the dollars and make $8 million a year available.
I'm still waiting on Brian McFadden's unveiling. He posted out that the Steelers were doing something big. I'm not sure if that's DK, Debo, or Ayuk. So if they're out on Tyler Boyd, then that means that's one of those three they're looking at. If Tyler Boyd options are here in Nashville versus L.A., I'd almost expect him to pick here, considering you know what the offense is.
And the coach.
and well, on the coaching side is this, too. Harbaugh is he's a rough guy.
Yeah.
And new head coaches, for the most part, are going to find ways to break down the team to build it back up. Now, Brian Callahan's situation may be a little bit different because he does have some older guys in skilled positions, so you got to cater to them a little bit. But as it pertains to what the Chargers have out in L.A., that's a young team that's going to be built up the exact same way that Harbaugh wants it to look. And that's rough, tough, and probably 3 yards in a cloud of dust type of offense.
Ryan on Twitter, at Ramon Kayla Will, asks, what does a possible contract look like for Tyler Boyd? Brad Spielberger of Pro Football Focus, when free agency began, his pick was 2 years, $17.5 million. $10.75 million guaranteed is what he projected at the beginning of the offseason.
I'm cool with that.
TJ asks in the F&M Bank chat, why would you add Boyd and not a safety like Justin Simmons instead? Don't we have enough playmakers? Why not do both?
Who said you aren't?
Yeah, they're going to add a safety.
I think they're definitely going to add a safety.
that.
I think this would be in addition to a safety.
Yeah.
Rand and Coach Callahan have both said the job's not done.
Yeah.
They got a lot of money left. Spot Track says they have $30 million left to spend, and that's including a draft class, mind you. But $30.9 million, according to Spot Track, the Titans have more cap space than everyone in the NFL except Jacksonville, Washington, and New England.
New England's got $50 million.
Yeah, $50 million.
They got moves to make, too.
Dang.
A lot of money.
Oof.
Lot of cash left over. But you're in a good spot. Spot Track also says you have 71 players on the roster, too, and I'm guessing that's including the rookies that's just been brought in, too. So that number's up. You got to get it up to 90 at some point, and we don't know the rest of the free agents.
That's right. Question of the F&M Big Chat. Look at the cap for 2025. Okay, Titans have 12th most cap space for 2025. They have $71.6 million of space to use next year. Pittsburgh, again, talking about making $8 million a year a work if you really wanted to. Pittsburgh could put a big cap number on 2025. They have the 5th most cap space available for 2025. Bengals actually aren't far behind them if the Bengals just wanted to bring him back, too. Bengals have a ton of space in 2025.
Another conversation that will have to be had is, do you give D-Hop a pay increase too? As far as, the cap goes, they got room for that still.
Contract year.
Yeah, contract year for him. If they want to, go ahead. Because I think he exceeded it last year. He was paid appropriately, but I think the production you got justified. Okay, we'll give you an extra 3, whatever the case may be. I don't know what the number is.
And I think he likes it here, too.
That's a good question, and probably something we can get to in the next week or two, now that we are through the draft. Is there reasoning to try to get DeAndre Hopkins to come to the table on an extension before the season starts?
And not
lock him in.
To your point, I mean to cut you off, but to that point also is there's been zero restructures. Everything right now is just raw money.
That's right. Ben is in the borough. 615-737-1045. What's up, Ben?
Hey, guys. You're talking about the draft. I mean, the Titans did draft a wide receiver. Kind of what does that do for Jaquan Jackson out of Tulane? That room starts to get kind of full. Guys got to try to fighting for spots. Makes it kind of interesting. I hadn't heard his name brought up. Just seeing what you guys think.
Thanks, Ben. It's a good question. For me, the production as a wide receiver just hasn't been there for Jaquan Jackson to where you're really going to expect a lot out of him on your offense. You are hoping that he sticks on the team as a punt returner and kick returner and maybe can give you some value as a wide receiver as his career progresses. I think they drafted him to be their returner, not
Yeah.
to be a wide receiver.
And that does take up a roster spot, though.
It does.
Right? And so you do have to wonder then, is NWY a practice squad guy?
I don't think so. I think it means Kyle Phillips is out.
And that too.
I think it means Kyle
Absolutely.
Phillips is out.
Absolutely.
Because in 1 week, they would have, if they signed Tyler Boyd this week, in 1 week, they would have added a punt returner and a slot receiver. And those are the two things that Kyle Phillips does.
And again, we're talking about a new coaching staff that's trying to figure out their guys. You know what I'm saying? Like NWI signed back here also. I think it was a minimum deal for the most part, not a crazy deal. I'm pulling up 1 year, $2 million deal, $167,000 with $750 guarantee. He'll be here, but again, his role will be what? Fourth or fifth wide receiver. Also has got to be a teamer. As it pertains to Jaquan Jackson, to me, when you say his room's kind of crowded, I'm always go back to this now. Joker. Break the pool stick. I'll see y'all outside, whoever survives.
Yeah, that's what you need.
Tryout.
Yeah. Imagine that, where we actually have wide receivers in the room that compete.
This is a beautiful thing.
Goodness.
It's just new because we don't talk about wide receivers like this many wide receivers here.
It's a good problem.
Coming up next, Matt Miller of ESPN will join us. Had a bit of a different perspective on the Titans draft class. We'll ask him what he likes and what he doesn't like about the newest Tennessee Titans. Coming up next. Rolling right along through hour number 4 of Ramon, Kayla, and Will. RKW is brewed by 8th and Roast with Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson. I'm Will Bowling. And joining us, one of our favorites here on this show, ESPN's Matt Miller at NFL Draft Scout, where you find him on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. And Matt, first and foremost, man, job well done by you, by ESPN. Really enjoyed following all the draft coverage in Detroit. It was terrific.
Yeah, thanks so much, man. It's a blast, and it's always sad when it's over, but I can promise you the work has already started on 2025, so it won't be long before we have a lot more to talk about.
I love it, and we certainly have a prospect in 2025 who wears Tennessee orange that we want to ask you about this morning as well, that we'll get to coming up here in a few minutes. But I wanted to start with what you wrote about this draft class on ESPN.com of the Titans maybe being your least favorite draft class. What did you not love about the class the Titans brought in?
Yeah, I mean, I think just overall looking at and let me back up. When we do these, like, hey, our favorite classes, it is absolutely, there's a bias because you're comparing it to your own ranking.
Sure.
So what I try to do after every draft is compare where a player was drafted versus where I had them ranked, how well they filled team needs, how well they played the board, value-wise, if there are trades involved, were those smart trades, were they not smart trades? So you try to take everything into account. When I looked at what the Titans did, I thought there were reaches. I thought J.C. Latham was a reach in the first round. I thought T'Vondre Sweat was a reach in the second round. I didn't think that either player addressed the team's, true needs as far as needing a left tackle. I was all about getting more pass rush help. Did not think it would come in the form of a 360-pound nose tackle. So the first two picks are kind of the headline of your class. Just didn't see either player being a good value where they were selected.
ESPN's Matt Miller, our guest at NFL Draft Scout on Twitter. So, Matt, when you look from maybe the J.C. Latham perspective and from his camp, if you were J.C. Latham's camp saying, what's the best place you could land, could you make the argument that that's with the Titans just because of who their offensive line coach is and Bill Callahan? Is this the best opportunity for a team to maybe get the most out of him?
Yeah, I do think so. And I even said that draft weekend. I am not smarter than Bill Callahan. I do not want anyone to think that I think I'm smarter than Bill Callahan. However, I've been doing this a while as well. I've evaluated a heck of a lot of prospects. I do know what I'm doing. So I think it is a good landing spot. My confusion comes from the fact of drafting someone who's never played left tackle a day in his life, who also played last year at 360 pounds, and movement was his struggle, in saying, you're going to be a left tackle for us. He's built like a guard. I mean, he truly is. I mean, everything about him. He was the strongest offensive lineman in the class. When he gets his hands on you, he's shutting you down, absolutely. But, 18 penalties in college, that's a problem for me. 27-game starter at right tackle, never took a snap anywhere but there. And I think there were times there were lapses in effort. You can look at the last play of his career as kind of a point to that of, you get run over by a dude that weighs 237 pounds. You weigh 360. Why is that happening? He allows way too much inside pressure. Now, can Bill Callahan look at him and say, hey, this is my Orlando Brown Jr.? Maybe that's the mindset here. I would argue that if you're drafted in the top 10, you should probably aim higher than Orlando Brown Jr. as your left tackle. If that's the gold standard, our standard is wrong. We need to reevaluate what we're looking for at offensive tackle. So we'll see, man. I have a ton of respect for Rand Carthon. I have a ton of respect for both the Callahans. I always say this. I hope I'm wrong about these things. When you say you don't like a pick, you hope you're wrong, because that means that the player and the team have, achieved a level that you didn't expect they could. So, Titans fans, I hope I'm wrong. I didn't think that this value was really good.
ESPN's Matt Miller's with us this morning. Matt, when it comes down to a dream scenario for the Titans and probably a couple other teams, it would have been awesome to have two Joe Alts, is what I'd almost expect when you mention needs, right? But as it pertains to picking the next best available guy for left tackle, would you have considered Olu Fashanu, or do you still go J.C. Latham? Because, again, there's knocks on either player. And in your opinion, and studying pre-draft, was it just a conversation around Olu Fashanu's hand size and that as it pertains to picking JC over Olu Fashanu?
I had Olu as my number 11 overall player, so that would have been the pick for me. Without a doubt, would have been the pick for me. 2-year starter at left tackle as opposed to a 2-year starter at right tackle. Gave up 1 sack. I know people dog on him about the hand size, 8.5-inch hands, or hey, the Ohio State games he struggled. Yeah, Ohio State's just a pretty good defensive ends. Those guys are going to be early draft picks next year. So I don't get it with Olu. I mean, dude's a team captain. Coaches there absolutely loved him. In fact, the quote I had in my scouting notes, high production, low maintenance. That's what the head coach at Penn State said about him. To me, that's the kind of dude you absolutely want, who does have athletic tools. His relative athletic score was a 9.58. He's a high-end athlete who is still learning the position. He is a little robotic at times. I think this past year, playing through the ankle injury, did show his toughness and his leadership, but it did hurt his game to some degree, especially in the run game. But I would have taken Fashanu and said, the work ethic, the traits, the person that I'm getting, that feels like a slam dunk to me. My comp for him was Teron Armstead, and I know I said with Latham, like, you'd like to aim higher than Orlando Brown Jr. I think Armstead's one of the better left tackles of football. So if that's the level that you're getting, especially like in the South where you've got some pretty dang good pass rushers, I would want a left tackle who's got good movement ability. I just think that's so important to have that reactive agility, and Fashanu's got that.
So when it comes to the draft board and how teams set them up and, what are reaches and what are not reaches, as it pertains to how you judge them and break guys down, you do a really good job at it versus teams who do that, right? How do you evaluate that? Because the conversation was that, JC was higher than Fashanu on the Titans board. So is that just, bad scouting, or just you looking at the overall raw athlete and say, yeah, he's bigger, he's stronger, he's played at a big program and big time games versus what Olu Fashanu has done? Is that just a separation of the way they scout, in your opinion, or it was just simply a reach?
I think it is a difference in how you scout. It really is. And there's information they have that I don't have that will always lead to differences, right? I'm a 1-person scouting department. They're a 25-person scouting department plus the coaching staff. So there's always going to be some variances there. And I will say, of all the analysts that I interact with, I was the lowest on Latham by a healthy margin. The difference is I'm not trying to rate players to equal where they'll be drafted. I'm ranking players based on how good I think they are and how good I think they will be. So I think sometimes you get a little bit of a difference in that. There are guys who rank because, hey, this guy's going to be drafted in the top 10. I want my ranking to match that. Boom, there we go. I don't do that. So I do think with Latham, one of the differences between myself and the Titans could be that they are evaluating for a scheme and a style, and I'm not doing that, because I don't work for a team, so I'm not looking for a certain prototype. Sometimes there are things even deeper. Sometimes it's even like a personality that you need or don't need that better fits your locker. I've talked to teams about that in the past where I'm like, man, I was a lot higher on this guy than you. They're like, well, his personality doesn't really fit us. I don't think that applies with Latham per se, but that is sometimes why you get the big differences. Mostly would be the scheme, and then secondarily would be, I think the culture. So I wouldn't say that the Titans are bad evaluators, not at all. We just have a pretty big difference in opinion in who JC Latham can be. If they had rolled out and said, hey, this dude is a plug and play right tackle with all pro potential, I'd be like, yeah, he absolutely is. But if you're playing him at left tackle, I think that's where we have our big difference in opinion of what type of player he can be.
Matt Miller of ESPN joining us this morning on RKW. Matt, when it comes to T'Vondre Sweat, I think this is where a lot of people that broke down this draft looked at this pick as being risky. And, there's the weight conversation, there's the DWI before the draft. But the Titans, put out that they did their due diligence. They even flew down to Texas and, felt comfortable drafting this guy. I will say this, someone's going to draft him. So, Matt, with him coming here, could this be the best opportunity for him to succeed, knowing who he's going to be on the line with Jeffrey Simmons, who, by the way, had some issues coming out of college as well and did some pretty good things here as of late. And then having just a defensive line coach in Tracy Rocker who's seen it all.
Yeah, so on Sweat, I thought around the time of the Senior Bowl was the peak for him. And there was like some legitimate late first, early second round talk when we were at the Senior Bowl. After that, once you really got more information from area scouts and coaches is when it started to bottom out. Even before the DWI, was like kind of the period at the end of the sentence for him. I had a 4th round grade on Sweat, and I loved his tape. I really did. I mean, the tape was fantastic, but the more you heard about, work ethic concerns, especially early in his career, I think he did a good job of turning things around. The DWI didn't help with that perception, but everything I heard was that he did a really good job turning things around over the course of his career. And he has said himself, I was kind of a party animal early in college. That led to some of the issues with, weight management. And that's the key here is now, you got to keep this dude reined in. I do think playing with Jeffrey Simmons is going to help. They have someone, Kendrick Coburn, who they picked up from the Chiefs, was with Sweat at Texas, so there's some familiarity there. Coburn was a player that at Texas was a really good leader, so I think that will help. And sometimes you try to do that. You try to pair a guy with someone that was a mentor with him in college. The Eagles did that with they had Jordan Davis. That's why they felt comfortable drafting Jalen Carter. So a lot of times you're thinking about those things when you make the pick. But with Sweat, really good player when you can keep him reined in. I thought it was interesting from a purely football standpoint, to be his size, 360 pounds. They had to play him as a 3 technique. They didn't play him at nose tackle. They actually played Byron Murphy, the smaller guy, by a healthy margin. They played him at nose tackle because he could better handle 2-gapping. He could better understand the assignments and what was needed of him as opposed to just, hey, I'm just going to try to blow things up every play. So I think that's probably going to be the biggest adjustment for Sweat is just playing assignment-based football because that was something that he did struggle with at Texas.
Matt Miller of ESPN with us now. Matt, when it comes to their fourth round pick, because they did not have a 3rd rounder, they did address the need at linebacker. I'm curious to know, do you feel like he's an instant starter in Cedric Gray, the 3-year starter at North Carolina, and could he possibly even wear the green dot? Because that is a huge conversation here with the pairing of Kenneth Murray.
Yeah, I think he has to be a rookie starter. I really do. Athletically, he definitely can handle that. I know he didn't test as athletic as he played, I thought, but his production as a 3-down player was remarkable. And I think to the green dot question, this guy played over 50 games in college. That would make me feel pretty good about giving him that responsibility. He was an all-ACC selection the last 2 years. Everything he did during those 3 years of starting was just high in production. I think he had over 370 tackles. It's just crazy. Played primarily on the inside. They did move him around a little bit, but the stat that I had from our information department at ESPN was 73% of his snaps came at inside linebacker, which is, again, great to that idea of this guy might have to be our green dot player. In coverage, I think is where he struggles, but he had 8.5 sacks during his career. He can get after the quarterback a little bit, whether that be on delays, stunts, things of that nature. Love his length. Love the way he plays. He's just got to be, I think, a little more physical against the run. That's going to be the biggest adjustment for him. Missed tackles were a little bit of an issue. I mean, the thing with missed tackles, he's incredibly productive, so you might see a higher missed tackle count, but it's because he's in on more plays. So there's kind of it's a good and bad thing that he's in on so many plays with that one. But I would expect him to be a day one starter. There's not a whole lot of competition there. Kenneth Murray will be one of the starters. And I would expect he would be the other.
ESPN's Matt Miller, our guest at NFL Draft Scout, where you find him on Twitter. Going back to J.C. Latham, Matt, a guy who in high school, kind of the last time he was at left tackle, right? IMG Academy, and it's been a while since he's been at that position. How much does kind of the high school development of a player like that move the needle for you where, J.C. Latham has been on the left side a little bit, but it's been since he was, in math class and taking statistics of these things at 17 or 18 years old?
You at least like that he has done it. That it's not completely unfamiliar. The last 3 years he's been working exclusively at right tackle. The muscle memory is probably there. And you talk to guys like Duke Manyweather, who I think is the best offensive line coach in the country, about how hard it is to make that change. Duke has always told me, it's more about the footwork if they can or can't make that change. However, if a player's really good at one spot with the way the NFL is now, like, why move them? Like, why move a great right tackle to the left side just because it's seen as a more valuable spot when in this day and age you really need balance? So it's going to be like the preseason has kind of become like not important. Roger Goodell even says that, but training camp and preseason, I'm going to be tuned in. I want to see how Latham looks if he does play left tackle. And you never know with these things where a guy's actually going to play. They can draft him and say he's going to play here, and it really doesn't matter until the game starts. So then you might draft him with the idea or the hope. And I know JC said himself that he can play left tackle. So he's confident in it. I think that's step number one. If Bill Callahan's confident in it, that's step number two. And then, it's kind of like we will see. I think the biggest thing is he's got to play more like he did his sophomore year and a lot less like he did his junior year, right? He gained like 20 pounds or more. Alabama wanted all their offensive linemen bigger last year after they, kind of got pushed around, especially by Texas in 2022. They had all those guys playing a lot bigger in 2023. So I think for Latham, let's get you back down to that like 335, 340 range. Hopefully that will improve some of the lateral agility, and that would make me feel a lot better about the level of player you're getting.
Matt, just real quick before we get to the James Pierce question, what's a better place to be in, or what's a better draft pick? One that you take for need, or one that's best available? Because we always hear one between the other. Which one is the better?
I think it's best available. I really do, because you just don't know if it's going to hit, right? The hit rate on draft picks is like 50% or something. So if you're drafted for need, there's always that chance. I mean, it might work, it might not, but I think value is the way to go because you're always churning your roster. The average career is 3 years. So I think you always have to have the mind of, hey, we might have a guy at this position, but, competition is great. You're always trying to get cheaper. You're always trying to get younger. So I certainly lean the best available. I think, it's a much longer conversation about quarterbacks when it comes to that. Like you're probably reaching on quarterbacks outside of the first couple picks in every draft, or even sometimes in the first couple picks with every draft. But I would always lean toward best player available.
You said you're already preparing for next year, and you got a name of James Pierce Jr. There in Knoxville, Tennessee. What do you like about him? Because, man, does he get a lot of buzz coming into this next season, and rightfully so.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, I mean, rightfully so. The first step quickness is phenomenal. The ability to bend. I had one scout tell me he would have been the first defensive player drafted this year. So, he would have gone ahead of Leatu Latu. He would have gone ahead of Byron Murphy, Dallas Turner, all of them. Like, he was that good. So I think everything that he does gets you pretty excited. But again, it's the quickness. It's the motor, the energy that he plays with is ideal. And he does that, that high-end athleticism, the high-end motor, and then you get elite production in the SEC. Finding those three things together is pretty hard. A lot of times we'll see a guy, elite athleticism, like terrible motor, or elite athleticism, production's not there. Like Chop Robinson, guy had 6 sacks in college, but he runs like a 4.38. With Pierce, you get that elite athleticism and the fact that he has double-digit sacks, and his pressure rate last year was over 21%, which was top 5 in all of college football. So you're really getting the total package when it comes to James Pierce.
ESPN's Matt Miller crushes it covering the NFL
Matt.
Draft. One of our absolute favorite guests at NFL Draft Scout, where you find him on Twitter. Matt, it's crazy to me. You're saying that like every evaluation you have doesn't just immediately happen. Like it's not always gospel. Like what the heck, man?
I wish. It would make my job a lot easier. And also, I think it would be a lot more fun to be right all the time. Yeah. I would like to try that and see what happens. Yeah.
You would, but you create a whole lot of enemies, Matt. I'm talking about a lot of enemies.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, I'm going to stay. You guys know I love Nashville. I'm going to stay away for a little bit.
That's all right. You're always amongst friends on this show, Matt. Always.
You know what you can say?
I know that.
You know what you can say if you're always right? Just meet me at the bank because I'm cashing checks, baby.
There we go. I'm going to remember that. I'll just have Ramon come with me.
I know,
no
right?
one's going to mess with me if I have him.
It's really nice, Matt.
You need
I
a
highly
good
recommend
guard.
it.
You need a good guard at all times in your life. And just old lineman, Matt. That's it.
All right. Enough of that. Matt Miller has been our guest at NFL Draft Scout. Matt, great work as always, man. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Yes, sir. There he is, Matt Miller with us here this morning. We will take the time to react to a lot of that tomorrow morning. Ramon Foster gave me a look when he made the note about J.C. Latham being a guard. And that look is because I think Ramon said that in February.
Yeah.
I did. But that should fall back in contingency plan right there, though, right? Like, you got layers to, I feel like, almost each one of these players. If this doesn't work, okay, we'll work them right here. Except for Cedric Gray.
That's why you have a coaching staff also.
I loved what he said about Gray.
It's a lot of two-way players and position flexible guys. I feel like the last couple of years.
And if you're picking in the top 10, odds are you're going to get a blue chip talent that can do two different things. It's not a knock to say he could be a guard. Like, okay, cool. He could be a guard one day.
Yep.
When I first started following like the drafting players, Robert Gallery, y'all remember him? Supposed to be like a top 4 pick, and he was, I think, either 2 or 3. Supposed to be this great left tackle. Turned out to be a really good guard. He got like 7-8 years out of him.
There you go. Coming up, Charles Barkley. Whenever he talks, you should listen. And he pretty much just eviscerated analysts and podcasters a little bit yesterday. And we'll hear that next. Good stuff with ESPN's Matt Miller here in Hour 4 of Ramon, Kayla, and Will. If you missed that conversation, you find it wherever you download podcasts in a matter of minutes. Ramping up the show with Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson. I am Will Bowling. Coming up tomorrow morning, we will have Brent Hubbs at 7:20, his weekly visit on the show. We will also have the executive director of the Reese's Senior Bowl, Jim Nagy, at 8:20.
Yes.
The Titans made 6 of their 7 picks with Senior Bowl players, including their last 6 picks. So Jim Nagy will have intimate knowledge of 6 of the newest Tennessee Titans.
Good info right there.
Looking forward to that.
Tried and true, baby.
I like it.
They weren't even there. Jokes.
Shame.
ESPN's Matt Miller, we'll get into that more tomorrow with good stuff to say and a lot to react to, including the note that he made that he thinks J.C. Latham's best position is at guard. And Ramon will give you a full breakdown on, again, why he's been saying that he thinks J.C. Latham could play pretty much anywhere on the offensive line, other than maybe center in the NFL. This yesterday from NBA on TNT and Charles Barkley, who I think splits the hair perfectly of being entertaining and sometimes telling us what we need to hear, especially when it comes to analysts and fans who want a couple of coaches fired in the NBA, yet refuse to blame the players. This was Charles Barkley.
Also, you said you wanted to say something coaching.
Yeah, part of our job, we watch all the games and we watch all the talk shows. A lot of these people on television, they're cowards because they want the players to like them. They don't want to do their job, which is to tell the truth. And I just want to say this about coaching. Anybody who thinks the reason the Lakers suck is because of Darvin Ham or the reason the Suns suck is because of Frank Vogel, you don't know what you're talking about. Frank Vogel is a hell of a coach. Darvin Ham is a hell of a coach trying to get his career started. But for all you punks, idiots, and jackasses on other networks who want to be media and who want all the players to like y'all, do your damn job. The Lakers suck and the Suns suck because of the players. It has nothing to do with the coaches. I feel better now.
Here, I can tell. Looks like you are.
Wow.
Getting that off your chest.
I did. I hate it, man. You sit there like Darvin Ham needs to get fired. Frank Vogel needs to get fired. Who put them teams together? Them trash ass teams put together need to get fired. Them guys they didn't just all of a sudden suck as coaches. People who put them teams together they start packing up their stuff.
There's Charles Barkley.
Who he's talking about
on TNT.
Charles is very honest and outward. You know who he's talking about? ESPN and specifically Kendrick Perkins.
Yeah.
Perk gets a reputation of being very, 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 very pro LeBron because of their friendship and everything else. Charles said it, and Shaq somewhat backed it up too. And some of the conversation they've had, he doesn't play around with it. I think he's not a big fan of ESPN in general, just because he said it before. Pay me that little bit of money, overwork me all the time.
Yeah.
He's super outspoken about them, and I think it's the pandering to the NBA deal that they have and just the friendships. Chuck is always going to be that way. He's never going to apologize. Chuck said give him till, Savage and I talked about this weekend, give him till he's 60 years old and he off TV. They had to pretty much beg him to come back. So I can understand his impatience and just how he doesn't want to deal with people who don't do the sport the right way. If you're going to talk about it and have a level of validation, speak the truth. So I fully agree with Chuck on that one right there. Not that he's going at Perk, but I get what he's saying.
I'm glad we have guys like that who can do it. He can do it. He's not going to get punished or get fired because of it, right? He can do that. So I'm glad he does it. And he is not wrong. I once had an NBA player who is playing right now in the NBA who told me straight up, it's not about the coaches. That it is the players decide the team. It is not about the coaches. And it is that. That's exactly what he said. And I'm glad he said it.
The only devil's advocate I will throw into that is there are also analysts who will advocate for their coach friends too. Like Charles Barkley's point is like, don't just always take the player side and not the coach side because you want the players to like you. There are plenty of guys out there that will do the opposite and always take the coach side and never take the player side because they want the coaches to like them. Mm-hmm. And they want to continue to having access. Either way, Charles Barkley is right. that in order to do this job and to be an even bigger role on television nationally, it takes some courage to say bad things about somebody's job performance who you've got to shake the hand of the next time you see them and be cordial with. And there are a lot of sensitive people in sports that you say the wrong thing about them or the right thing, even if it is fair, they're going to look at you sideways and never forgive you for it. But it's why I respect people a lot like Charles Barkley, who have no preconceived biases and friendships that color the things that he says on television. He's fearless in what he says, and we need more of that in media.
Did you guys see what he said about the Pelicans?
Yes.
No, I didn't.
Send them down there to Galveston, with that dirty ass water.
He said they don't need to go to Cancun. They need to go to Galveston.
Y'all think
That's
y'all at the
right.
beach have that dirty ass
Didn't
water wash
Beyonce
over
get
your
mad?
body?
Tough day to be from Galveston.
Beyonce getting mad at
My
that comment.
goodness. Do we want to say who else is on the show tomorrow, Ramon?
Yay.
You're good?
Yeah, go ahead. Say it.
ESPN's Jeremy Fowler
Ooh, what does that mean?
will also join us tomorrow. He was the person who tweeted out that Tyler Boyd was visiting with the Titans. He is the national reporter that is on that story, and he will be on this show tomorrow morning at 9:20.
And just to be real with you again, too, this situation is fascinating because I've reached out to my guy Fowler, and now it's on the heels of Tyler Boyd being here.
Woo-wee.
We'll see if there's news tomorrow on Tyler Boyd. Ramon Foster, send us home.
You got to remember at all times, man, that look, if you're going to talk crap on social media, them receipts come due. So your Twitter fingers and your mic is always hot.